Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
Good evening and welcome to Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott, and we love being here live for you each and every night. Magician and paranormal trooper Joe Diamond returns to the show tonight. We're going to talk magic. We're going to talk Penn and Teller. We're going to talk mind reading, skepticism, illusions, paranormal, supernatural stuff. Yeah, last time he was on, he scared the hell out of me, and we're going to do that again tonight. Best part about tonight, we have each and every one of you in the chat room so far. We have Race Fan in the gold medal position, followed up by Chris Laker with a silver. Brown Dwarf taking home the bronze medal tonight. Hi, Laura Lobbs, Robert Lamoth, Kitty Caddywhack, Paul Shreves. Welcome to SOR chat. Tim Mothman and his goatee will be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the right of the studio, if you don't mind, to the right of the studio. Moving on, we have Eternity Eternal, Matt Carter. T-Bone, my man, how are you? Mel WD-40 is here. He's currently lubing us up for tonight's show because you always want to go into a show nice and smooth. You don't want any rigidness. It doesn't feel good when it's dry. You know that. So that's why Mel lubes us up each and every show. Sensational Shelley is here. Shelley will be signing autographs after the show as well. Line up to the left of the studio, if you don't mind, to the left of the studio. Continuing on, let's say hello to Deborah Rooney. How are you? Lee the Bee, thanks for coming on in. And who's next here? Well, it is, as we scroll on down, Human Carl. Human Carl is here, a great veteran of the United States Air Force. Thank you for your service, Human Carl. We very much appreciate and love you. Paramarv, nice to see you. As we continue on with our roll call tonight, who's up next? W. David Page. Keyshawn Petgrave, how you doing, man? Road Flare, nice to see you. Body Tech, good morning to you. You're up early today. Noble Patrick, Deanna Ann, thank you both for joining us. J Truthseeker, good to see you. Hi there, Gory Tiger and Christine Lynn. Thank you for coming on in. Woo-poo, how you doing? Good to have you here. As we continue on with roll call, and Digger Dog, thank you for joining us tonight. Debster, thank you for kicking off the super chat tonight. It's a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. So thank you very, very much for the love and support. Hi, Marty Burback. Yennefer, she prefers a soft J, so we call her Yennefer around here. Good to have you back, Yen. Eva, how are you? Mike Rivers, thank you for coming on in. Operation Shutdown. And Ozzy, oi, oi to you. And where are we here? Let's continue on with roll call here. CS, nice to see you. And Algaray over on Twitch did 1,000 sit-ups in 18 minutes to warm up for Joe Diamond tonight. 1,000 sit-ups. Thank you, Algaray. Appreciate that. You're ripped and in charge tonight. Knight Rider, how you doing? How's Kit? Let us know. Moving on. Next, we'll say hello to, let's scroll on down, Mama Susan. How are you? Good to see you. Deidre, thank you for coming on in. Couple of good Canadian kids there. And let's get the radio side going, shall we? Hello and welcome to the radio and podcast side of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Tonight we have magician Joe Diamond on the show. We're going to talk all things magic, mind reading, tricks of the mind, paranormal, and so much more. We are in roll call right now. T-Bone, my man, thank you for that lovely super chat. We very much appreciate it here on Spaced Out Radio. Jerry Carter, nice to see you. The Ferret, good to have you here. Millennium, my man, what's going on? Thank you for coming on in as we are in roll call here. Want to remind everybody, once again, the super chat is open. It's a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. So be like Deb, be like T-Bone. And you can shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. We do not have ugly swag, people. No ugly swag. You can wear our stuff in public and be proud to wear it. So it is that time of the night where we say hello to all of you and ask you politely to throw those horns up. Let's rock. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out, Bumblefoot, read the news wire. You can check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon at the Space Travelers Club. Tonight's show is brought to you by Jive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Jive Charities today. You can find them on our website. We got a great show for you tonight. Magician Joe Diamond is going to be here putting our mental minds to the test. I don't know if you're ready. I don't even know if I'm ready for that, but we'll get to Joe momentarily. Then in hour number 3, it's a busy one. We have Swamp Dweller, then Robin Haynes for the Cryptid Report. It's Dave 101 night and the weird news of the week. You know, I hate having to start off a show this way, but we lost a former family member of SOR in the last few days. Long time ago, I nicknamed this gentleman the Paranormal Lawyer. Michael W. Hall was a lawyer out of Washington State. He was extremely generous with his time, not only for weekend host on Spaced Out Radio for a short time on our YouTube channel, but also as a guest on this show, a confidant, a lawyer for this show, and just a friend. Michael passed away after suffering for the last couple of years with kidney failure and kidney dialysis. He was not a healthy man. A few years ago, he underwent bariatric surgery, which helped him lose well over 300 pounds in order to try and get healthier. But unfortunately, his body just shut down and recently passed away. He was a fixture in this community. He helped Grant Cameron release the Wilson Davis documents to the public. He was somebody who never said no to an interview. He called everybody a friend and saw the good in everybody. He was part of the UFO I-Team in Washington State. He was in the documentary Tear in the Sky. He was always trying to be involved in the UFO world because one thing that he wanted to do was get this story out. Well, unfortunately, Michael passed away. This has left a giant hole in many of our hearts at Spaced Out Radio, and we're going to miss him. Was a great guest for this show. He was a great friend to me. He always took my phone call, was always very polite and cordial. And this is a hard one. This is a hard one for us here at Spaced Out Radio because we love Michael. So God bless your soul, Michael. You got the answers now, and hopefully you found that UFO that you always wanted to fly on, and you're able to cruise across the stars wherever you want to go. Rest in peace, the paranormal lawyer, Michael W. Hall. All right, let's get right to our guest tonight, and it is Joe Diamond. Now, Joe may look like a normal, everyday, average guy, but he loves the strange and mysterious. He's been dubbed the greatest mind reader in the United States. He is a world record holder for solving the world's largest corn maze blindfolded. He has also hacked the Pentagon without a computer live on radio. Wonder where he did that. He's appeared on Penn and Teller's Fool Us, where he read the minds of the legendary Las Vegas duo and the palm of supermodel and television host Brooke Burke. I think he had a little bit of a crush on her, but we're not going to let his wife know. No, we will not. And he's also a good friend of Spaced Out Radios here as well. Joe Diamond, it's always a pleasure to have you on Spaced Out Radio. It's been a while. How you doing, my friend?
It has been a while. I'm doing, again, as I said right before we went live, better now that I'm talking with you and seeing you again. And let me just set the record straight right now. My wife has no problem with my crush on Brooke Burke. The way she phrased it is, to be fair, you've known about her longer than me. And the way my wife phrased it was, if you won the trophy, we'd have to put that in a weird place in the apartment, and it's a big FU. I don't know where we'd put that. You get to just keep the hug you got from Brooke Burke in your mind. So there you go.
Nice.
So spoiler alert for those who have not seen that episode yet. We can talk a little bit about it, and I can share with you some magic and paranormal behind the scenes about it.
At least you got to meet your crush.
One of them. I think the crush I had a little bit more a few years later. That show that she was on, I saw when I was like, maybe 13, 14. But like right at that same time, it was Rachel Weisz and the Mummy. Which my wife and I just rewatched that, and that movie still holds up. And I don't think there will ever be a more attractive cast in the history of cinema.
In the early 2000s, I, like many other people in the world, had a major crush on Renee Zellweger.
Mm-hmm.
And one night I was out in Vancouver, and my phone stopped working. And I was trying to get a hold of my cell phone provider, trying to figure out why my phone hadn't worked, because I'd paid my bill and everything was fine, and I wasn't sure what was going on. And this was right on the corner of Nelson and Granville in Vancouver. And there used to be a Blends coffee shop right on the corner there. And I'm standing there and I'm just pissed off. Like, I've been on hold for about 20 minutes at this point.
Mm-hmm.
I'm missing all the bar time with my friends trying to deal with this cell phone. And this lady bumps into me, and she's standing there and she's smiling at me. And she goes, "Hi, how you doing?" And I went, "Good. Sorry, I'm trying to deal with my cell phone right now." She goes, "Okay, have a good night." And she walks off into up the road by herself towards her hotel. And it wasn't until she was a block and a half away I realized that was Renee Zellweger.
No. Oh, no.
Broken heart right there. Like, there was there was my one shot. And I blew it.
Oof.
I blew it, man.
Man.
Now,
I'm so sorry. And there's a parallel universe where the two of you ran off together and own an island somewhere in the Caribbean. I believe that.
That's probably true.
Yeah.
In my other life, I'm married to Katy Perry, but don't tell me.
That too. Yeah, of course.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's really surreal. It was super surreal meeting her, well, seeing her in person first, Brooke Burke, because during so you get to Vegas. And for those who aren't familiar with the TV show Penn and Teller Fool Us, real quick, they fly in a small handful of magicians and mentalists and mystery performers from around the world to the Las Vegas Theater at the Rio All Suites and Resort in Las Vegas. And we perform one piece for Penn and Teller, and they tell us what they thought of our performance. They're usually very complimentary, and then they explain how they think you did what you did. And if they're right, you just say thank you and you walk off and you got a great TV appearance out of it. And if they are not right, you get a big trophy that says the initials of the show, Fool Us, FU on it. And you get to come back to Las Vegas and perform and close their Las Vegas show, which is they have the biggest theater residency in Las Vegas. They've had the longest residency in Las Vegas, like they're legends, all that stuff. And I had been submitting for 10 years, and I finally got on the show this last year, on this last season. And they switched up hosts. They switched hosts a couple of times, and this year it was Brooke Burke, famous philanthropist. Her name and philanthropist, it's all tongue twisters. Anyway, so you have to, Penn and Teller don't know any of the acts coming on the show. So you have to move through the casino, through back corridors and secret ways. And literally someone will stop and go, wait, Teller's walking by on the other side of the store. We have to wait till we get the all clear. All clear. And then you keep moving. So you stay hidden the whole time. So I had to go through 3 different hallways outside of the casino, down an alleyway, back into a long hallway in the theater. And we go through the door, and who's standing there on the phone? Brooke Burke. And this was under like harsh fluorescent lighting. If you've ever been backstage at a theater or casino, it's not glamorous. It's just white cinder blocks. And she was so much more beautiful in person. Like, yes, she was in makeup and she was in like yoga pants. Yeah, they were designer yoga pants, but I'm not going to look that good in makeup and in, expensive jammies, basically. And I mean, yes, when we were on stage and, she was all decked out and even more so, and couldn't have been nicer, super sweet interviewer. And the thing you don't see on the video is up on YouTube if anyone wants to watch it. The full performance, just type my name in. It's the first thing that comes up. And so after I performed, Brooke, interviews us, and we talked for like a good 5-10 minutes. So, and they cut down, they use the best spots and best parts of that early on. And I told one of the producers, that the story of watching her on a TV show and pausing it to see her palm, to try and read her palm to see if we were soulmates. Spoiler alert, we weren't. And they were like, oh, that's a good story. And word had gotten back to her about me reading palms. And she's really into all that stuff, which is an interesting dichotomy too. Penn and Teller are super skeptical, don't believe in psychics or spirits or anything. And Brooke Burke is very open. She's done some spiritual practice through her own work, and she's been on a variety of different paranormal shows and everything. So, and she talks openly in interviews about being a spiritual person. So it was an interesting back and forth. And she asks me to just read her palm, and I do. And she hugs me, but there's 5 more minutes of interview after that. And I just tried to give the worst answers possible. It was awful because I had a chance to have a conversation with Brooke Burke, but also there was the part of my brain of like, don't give them anything better than that, so that they air the hug, so that they air her hugging you. Because if I just tell people and that doesn't show up on TV, no one's going to believe me. And they did. And we did have a good conversation. She asked about how I got started and the usual questions, we've covered many times on this show before. And yeah, and then Penn and Teller said a bunch of great things that were really wonderful. They don't like mentalists, and they said this was the kind of mentalism that they loved, which I took as a huge compliment. That's better, in my opinion, and both professionally and artistically, than the quote "You fooled us." And I took out a prediction that said, "I predict I will not fool you." So I proved to them I was psychic, and I walked off stage. And and that was. Uh, and people asked me if I had another prediction ready in case I won. I was like, A, no. B, I was pretty confident they would recognize it. But here's a fun little paranormal wraparound of all this. Because, I'm not paying attention to dates during all this. I just know I fly into Vegas on Saturday. I come home Thursday. I'm there for several days doing rehearsals and the pre-show interview and all that stuff in front of a green screen. Which was great. They incorporate some of my crop circle and interest in like UFOs and all that into that, which was really cool. But it wasn't until I was in the car the next morning on the way to the airport in the van that they were taking me that I realized my mentor who taught me that original piece that I used to do on Penn and Teller's show. He taught me years ago when I was still a teenager. His name was Eugene Berger. He was known as the guru among magicians and mentalists and psychics in the Chicagoland area. Big white beard, deep voice. He always called himself an evil Santa Claus, which was kind of funny, or a spooky Santa Claus. And I realized the date yesterday was August 8th, and that was the date Eugene had died several years earlier. So the fact that I was performing that piece that he taught me on the day he passed away, and considering I've sent so many things to the show over the years, and this is the thing they picked, and it was on the same day, and I just kind of at that moment was like, oh, Eugene was with me during that. He was kind of looking out for me, making sure that everything ran smoothly and such, and yeah, couldn't have asked anything better to happen with that. And the hardest part was keeping it a secret from August of last year till this last February when it finally aired, because that's the other thing, you can't tell people that you were on the show until after it airs. So all last Halloween, people were like, "Oh, have you been up to anything interesting?" Kinda. Hopefully I'll be able to tell you soon. I don't know. So it's nice now with the spooky season coming up to be able to share that with people and show something that I've worked so hard on and shot for so long that it finally came to pass this last year.
How did you know that they were going to be able to tell what you were doing?
So a couple things. So there were a couple things. Number one, I'm gonna admit something here. I'm gonna pull back the curtain for you, Scott, Mr. Dave Scott. The secret to this piece that I did is the second video on YouTube that you will see if you scroll down, which is kind of ironic. So let me explain. A good friend of mine, Brian Brushwood, he does a couple podcasts and web shows, the Weird Things podcast. People like this, they should check that out. I've been a guest on that show. He'd be a good guy to get on here too. He'd be able to talk to you about a bunch of stuff. He owns 7 acres in just outside of Austin that used to belong to a nudist colony and cult. And that's where he's built his podcast empire. And he does videos where he teaches like things to do, like sometimes it's a bar bet, sometimes it's a stunt, sometimes it's a magic trick. And in 2022, I looked at his bookshelf while I was visiting there and saw the book that this card effect that Eugene Berger had taught me, the book he told me it was in, was on that shelf. So I said to Brian, I was like, "Oh, Brian, I'm going to fool you with a trick that's on your bookshelf." And he's like, "Well, let's film it." So we filmed it, and because it didn't use any sleight of hand or anything, and because he has so many people who watch the show, it, it is a difficult mental effect to kind of grasp and make sure you get all the steps right. Penn said it's a math professor trick, but the way I presented it made it seem like super casual and everything, and he was absolutely right. So it fooled the hell out of the two guys I did it for. I did it for him and a friend of his who's also a magician, also a roboticist. So two very smart guys who know how this stuff normally works. And they saw it and they were like, we have no clue. And then I broke down how it worked, and how it worked is even more mind blowing. Spoiler alert, the full video is like 20 minutes long for me to just explain it. Like, it's twice as long to explain how I do it than the entire Penn and Teller performance. And even then, people usually have to watch it a few times to kind of fully grasp what's happening. I've had a number of people say they tried to watch it but couldn't follow it, so they turned it off. Well, Brian, his mentor was Teller, and he had been on the show before. Many years ago, doing a version of psychic surgery, actually, where he reached into someone's stomach and everything, and it was really cool. And so he was kind of my mentor throughout all this, and he knew that they had that book on their shelf, and he knew that this is the kind of thing that Teller would like, which is why my initial idea was to do with tarot cards, because maybe they wouldn't recognize it as that. So when they said, let's switch it back to cards, I was like, again, and on top of it, I am a mind reader after all. I just knew. And also, again, Brian, my mentor, he really drilled in. He's like, this is a showcase of you, of showing you, your personality, and use every moment of that process as possible. Everyone else just goes, yeah, that's how I did it. Thanks. It kind of hangs their head and walks off stage. He's like, so he encouraged me to come up with this bit that we eventually came up with of me holding up the prediction and walking off as if that was the prize, because that would, they'd film me walking off stage. That would be more time. That would, and it gave it an ending that even Penn and Teller would not have seen coming too. So I think that, and it worked out great. I'm super happy with it. And of course, by the way, one of the books it's in, if someone does want to watch the video, I'll let you on this secret. If people want to do the digging, they can. I mentioned it and Penn mentioned it. The book is it's a book called Card College. That is the name of the book. So when we mention going to college and going to school, that's what we're talking about. And I even put it in my presentation to kind of let them know that I would know that they would know, if that makes sense. So it was a lot of fun, and again, I wanted to be the one mentalist on the planet they actually like. I mean, these guys have been very anti-mental. Even people who are more show busy, like the Amazing Kreskin, they've been very vocal about their distaste for, and in things like their master class, they talk about how they don't love psychic phenomena, or even performances that look like psychic phenomena, or things that claim to combine the two, and that's totally fine. I disagree, but that the point of an art form like this is to share your point of view of the world. They've shared theirs and I shared mine, and even though we had different point of views, we still got along and still respect each other's work, and that's what it's ultimately about.
We got about 45 seconds before we have to go to break at the bottom of the hour. Joe Diamond is our guest tonight. Did you think they would get it right off the bat, Joe? 30-second answer.
I wasn't sure, but you can see Penn and Teller and Teller kept the cards and he was kind of looking at them, and I saw him doing things that clued me in that they knew. So yeah, pretty much.
Oh, okay. That would lead me, and I know you can't tell the answer. That would tell me by you mentioning the cards and him studying them, that maybe, just maybe, that wasn't a regular set of cards.
It was a regular set of cards. It was. It was a regular off-the-shelf deck of cards. But you have to know certain properties of the positions of cards and what certain shuffles do, and I'll leave it at that.
Gotcha. Joe Diamond, when we return on Spaced Out Radio, what's it like to read minds? We're going to get into that. JoeDiamondLive.com is his website. Spaced Out Radio continues right after this, everybody. All right, we're clear.
Cool. So yeah, so what I'll show you what Teller was doing to clue me in. He was doing this. So, and I'll leave it at that. That's the clue you get. Again, if people want to sit down and watch the video, they can. I have no problem with people if people want to do that. My only rule when I tell people one-on-one is if you do look it up, you have to actually learn it and do it for someone. Don't just watch it and go, okay. If you can't, they don't understand it the first time and you go, oh, God, yeah, my brain doesn't work that way. That's fine. But if you're actually going to go through it, I always say, just knowing it is one thing. You have to actually share it with other people.
Yes.
Again, what my mentor Brian in that video says and other stuff, he says one of the prices of magic is you give up tasting sugar in order to become sugar. So once you know it, you can't taste it yourself. So therefore, you've got to give it to other people for them to enjoy.
All right. Well, you know what? You are our sugar around here.
Oh, thank you. And you're my daddy, sugar daddy. Wait, that was bad. No,
Wait,
never mind.
so
I'll back that up.
You can pour sugar on me all night long.
Yeah.
I went there.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
We're having fun, man.
Yep.
It's almost your favorite time of year.
Yeah. Spooky season's coming up. We can talk a little bit about that. So you've seen the movie Groundhog Day, yes? I think we talked about it one of the times I was on. So that building he jumps out of it, well, Bill Murray's stunt double jumps out of at one point. That's the theater I'm performing at for Halloween. That was filmed in Woodstock, Illinois, my hometown, and that's where I'm doing my Halloween shows now. So it's a historic venue. It's the first venue Orson Welles ever performed in. And yeah, it's got its own haunted history too. So we can talk a bit about that as well.
Lovely. Absolutely we can. Absolutely we can. All right. Gotta find out the
keeping up with the chat as well. So good. Thanks to everyone who shared my someone's asking, can you stack a deck and fool people with tarot? I know something playing cards and there's no winning hand. I don't know if that's a serious question or a joke. The same principles that deck of cards has with the 4 suits and everything, because there's 4 suits in tarot plus the major arcana, that I was able, again, the initial idea was I was able to adapt it. Someone's asking if I use rabbits. Nope. I just specialize in mind reading. Instead of pulling rabbits out of hats, I pull thoughts out of people's minds. So there we go.
Nice. Very nice. All right, where are we here? Purple-haired Pixie Lara, how are you doing?
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Joe is a good guest. That's sweet. Thank you. Serious question. Sorry for misspelling. Hey, no problem. Just want to make sure. Yes, I'll say it back telepathically. Yes. It's my favorite joke. You want to hear a psychic joke? Okay. I'll leave it at that.
It's going to be one of those nights, man.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Absolutely.
We got about...
telepathy is absolutely real. Absolutely. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
I would love to be able to use telepathy. I used to practice it. Never had any success. But I used to practice it.
Well, it depends on how you want to use it. Were you trying to send people thoughts, or were you trying to pick up on their thoughts?
Both.
Both. Okay. All right. Yeah, usually, um, usually, even if you're going to pick up on it, it's best to have someone who's really concentrating and genuinely sending you the thoughts. And I have my own little like ways to do that. But reading minds, magic or science. I'm going to. There's an Arthur C. Clarke quote that uh, magic is science we don't understand yet, and I'm going to quote Doctor Strange and say science is magic we don't understand yet.
You got that right. Hold on right there, Joe. Thank you to both T-Bone and Deb for the super chats. Very much appreciate the love. Corey Cole, you are Boondock Mojo. It's my telekinetic powers telling you that. Don't forget to shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. Here we go with the second half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you very much for tuning us in tonight. It's always a pleasure to earn your listening ears. I want to remind you that if you miss portions of this show or others, you can always check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Joe Diamond is here, magician, mind reader, paranormal investigator, looking into all things strange and weird, and that's why we love him around here. Joe's website, joediamondlive.com. And Joe, I know you love the human mind. It's your thing. It's your zen. It's your chi. It is the butter in your buttercup. I think we can say that. Totally say that. And here's Joe. My little buttercup.
I was thinking build me a buttercup. But close enough. We're
Oh, why do you build me up, buttercup? Just to let me down. Let me down. Oh God, where this is going off the rails real quick here, and I love it. I love it. What is it about the mind that can constantly just makes you think that this is something that you want to do and learn about the rest of your life?
I mean, it's such a beautiful paradox, you know. Our minds are the one thing we know, but it's also the greatest mystery. I mean, outer space, galaxies, all that stuff is fascinating. And don't get me wrong, I'm fascinated with the idea of like interdimensional beings and extraterrestrials and all that stuff. Not saying there isn't anything, beyond our, galaxy and beyond our skies and so forth. But I think a lot of people do look outward for, not even answers, but for mystery, for, the unknown. And there's so much that we don't know about the human mind. We know a lot about the brain, but we don't really know a lot about the mind. And I think that's why I like going by mind reader. Technically, again, mentalism and magic, and there's all these technical terms. Technically, if you want to say it, I'm doing thought reading, or thought sending and receiving. But thought sender, thought receiver, mind reader, I think sums it up. And I do my best to make it feel like how it should feel, and make it get to the point where there's nothing quite like standing on stage in front of a couple hundred people or over Zoom, and with no props, no anything, like a comedian who uses just their words to make everyone laugh. With just my words and other people's minds, I can make the hair on the back of everyone's neck stand up. Like, there is something very special about that. And I think it's because our our minds are, I mean, they hold our personalities, who we are, our secrets, our again, our conflicts, our inconsistencies. I think it's always going to be the final frontier. I think we're going to know more about, Bigfoot, extraterrestrials, all the stuff is out there, uh, before we learn truly what's in here.
Yeah, and I mean, to even advance on that a little bit, I mean, one of the biggest mysteries that we only think of this question right after it happens, when we see a newborn baby sleeping, wondering what it's thinking at
Hmm.
that time. What is it dreaming about? What is it? What is going through its mind? I mean, that
Hmm.
is one mystery we may never ever solve, at least in our lifetimes. I don't think,
Sure,
but
sure. Well, and we have ways to get close, and just because we have, whether you want to believe we were given these abilities or we evolved these abilities, whatever that's the case, the fact is we have, like, empathy is a form of telepathy. It is a form of communicating without saying anything out loud. And I have this line in my shows where, I ask in the room who's skeptical of mind reading, and there's always people who raise their hands. And I play with them because I do genuinely see myself as a skeptic. I think a lot of people are actually cynical about it, not skeptical about it, but that's a whole other conversation. But I'll say to them, do you think it's possible for you to know someone else's thoughts without ever having met the person, without that person saying the thoughts out loud? And they always say no. And I always say, well, have you read a book? Stephen King admitted when you sit down to read a book, two amazing things are happening. Number one, you're looking at very thin pieces of trees that have been sliced very thin with dirt on them, and you're looking at them and you're hallucinating. You're looking at trees and dirt and you're hallucinating. You're hallucinating what the other person wants you to hallucinate. That's amazing. But also, when you sit down and read a book, you are reading the author's thoughts without them having to say anything, without anyone without even having to meet the person. And that's a pretty amazing thing. And I think that's the other thing with the mind. We sell ourselves so short so many times. We don't realize how fast our brains can figure things out or problem solve or just intuitively guide us. And so I think again, I think it's just an endless playground, but also like knowing other people's thoughts still ironically is something that shouldn't be about us. They always say don't worry about what other people think, but we do. Like, we want to know what that baby or that guy over in the coffee shop or that pretty girl we like is thinking. Maybe that would bring us comfort going up to it. Doesn't. Trust me, it doesn't. But I think what we're ultimately trying to feel for that is it is our hope to truly understand someone, to truly connect with someone, even more so than the specific, word or phrase they're thinking, or even emotion. Even if we empathize, even if they're, sad, and we try and empathize with them and we feel more anxious than sad, it doesn't matter that those aren't the same emotions. We're connecting through those emotions and through those thoughts.
Joe Diamond, what is the one thing that regular people like me and others out there don't understand about the power of the mind?
It's not only more amazing and more complex and more beautiful than you imagine. It's more beautiful than you can imagine. Again, I think it's that we sell ourselves short so much. Oh, have Joe say sell ourselves short so fast it looks like that person donated. Sell our short fat, sell ourselves sell our, I fail. Whatever, sorry. But yeah, but I think the biggest thing the biggest misconception is we think it's a superpower, or I hate to say gift, because everything's a gift. The breath we take is a gift. Our minds themselves are gifts. But I don't think you need. I don't think you need to sit there and just wake up and go, well, I wasn't born with it, so I can never do something like this. I think people, when they experience things that, again, more cynical people would brush off as coincidences, those who are a little bit more tuned in would maybe call synchronicities. I think eventually, when you're more tuned in, that becomes closer and closer to, again, telepathy, thought reading, thought sending, all that stuff.
When did you first start developing your mind to understand what it could do? Because I think for a lot of people out there, when they synchronize your name with magic, they automatically think you're just playing with the mind rather than working the mind.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, I have no problem with people who do call me a magician. Some call me a mentalist. Some call me a mind reader. Some local newspapers in the Chicagoland area called me a mystic, and we're all those things. I think so. So there's a couple things. I think it's kind of the same way, similar to how people view hypnosis, because hypnosis has been so tied to show business and people making fun of their audience members and making them dance around, that they don't even realize how much like good research there is out there, and how much a lot of the, I guess you could say, the fantasy of the show business does get in the way of that. I always say with what I do, it is an art. It's not a science. I'm not a scientist doing experiments at Duke University. I don't think there's a hard and fast rules to it, but there's not hard and fast rules to love either. You either love something or you don't. You can't study love so much to the point where you start to love someone you don't, or to talk someone out of their love for their family or their pets or any of that stuff. Like, try and tell people that, oh, those people, the love they're feeling is just chemicals in their brain, and you're not, I mean, at the very least, not going to make very many friends. But I also think that's just flat out wrong. We're more than the chemicals and, the things pumping through our physical bodies. I think there's more to it, whether you want to see it as mental, electrical, spiritual, whatever it is, it's there, and we all understand it's there. I like this, and again, I welcome the skepticism. I went on Penn and Teller's show and was like, break down what I just did. So I'm definitely not against it. But as an artist, I have no problem with that. And if people want to see that, if they want, because here's the other fascinating thing too that I love with this. So I got into all this stuff, mentalism, mind reading, psychic phenomena, through magic, through learning a card trick from my grandfather, through my great grandmother teaching me how to read playing cards like tarot cards. Like, I was learning what the meaning of the 10 of diamonds was while I was learning how to, shuffle a deck of cards at the same time. So to me, I've never seen them as separate things. I've always seen them as interconnected. The only reason I make any kind of distinction is for commercial reasons, because I don't use the billing magician because people do associate with like rabbits out of hats and those kinds of things. So my posters, my promo, all that stuff, I go with mind reader or mystic because that's a lot closer to what I'm doing as well. For example, here in the Midwest, I mentioned this during the break. I'm doing a show at the Woodstock Opera House in Woodstock, Illinois. It's where they filmed the movie Groundhog Day. It's a gorgeous old theater, and we're going to be doing. I'm going to be doing a show there in October, and it's going to be 2 acts with an intermission. And the first half is going to be my standard mind range show. I've done it in theaters. I've done it in corporate events. I've done it in living rooms. I've done it over Zoom. I've done it everywhere. And I'll be doing different fun, interactive things with people. And kind of the the biggest secret of the show is that my name's on the billing and the poster and everything, but the show isn't about me. It's about the people in the audience. It's always different. It's never the same way twice. But after intermission, we're going to come back, and the second half is we're going to do a seance. We're going to do an Orson Welles seance. That's the first stage he ever performed on. It's actually dedicated to him. There's a plaque to the side of the stage. It says the Orson Welles stage. And he was born in Kenosha, Wisconsin, grew up in Woodstock, Illinois, about an hour away, attended the Todd School for Boys, and that was the first stage he ever performed on. It also has its own haunted history with other ghosts and stuff before he even got there. We can, again, get into that maybe after the next break. But, I mean, I have a structure of what to do. Like, we're going to be bringing people up who will be using pendulums at one point, for example. Like, there's no trick in that. I am just bringing up 13 people, teaching them how to use their pendulums, and then transitioning that into seeing if Orson Welles is there and make contact. And I'll admit, yes, it's scripted, but there's a script for when things do happen, and there's a script for if things don't happen. My hope is that, we'll have other surprises happen, and I'm going to do my best to allow that to happen. But at the same time, I'm not gonna, if it doesn't happen, like, that's kind of the fun of it too. I'm not gonna have, actors pretending that something's happening or anything like that, because I think that takes the fun out of it, out of this art form. It's the equivalent of using a photograph instead of painting a picture, or painting a portrait. Yeah, you can do it, but it kind of takes out the point of doing the thing. The photo, yeah, may be more accurate and stuff, but it's not painting the picture. So, yeah, and then on top of it, I have to be ready for something I could have never anticipated. I can't tell you how many times, like, when I'm doing a reading on stage, I do a lot of psychometry reading. I've even done like tarot readings on stage, and I'll just find myself saying something. I have no idea where it's coming from, why I'm saying it, but I'm like, hey, you need to hear this, and this is what I'm getting. And more often than not, it's not wrong. Even if I am wrong, there's usually a reason why I'm getting it. Like, I've had this happen a lot. I'll ask someone to think of someone. I'll ask, are you thinking of your mom? And they'll say, like, mother-in-law. So it's like, okay, so it makes sense why I'm getting it. Again, it's an art, not a science. But I also have the seance happening in the second half after intermission as a very clear distinction. Like, yes, the first half is going to be fun, Halloween, spooky entertainment. And in the second half, hopefully it's going to get weirder than that and beyond that and more meaningful than that. And people will walk away with a much deeper experience for the unknown and the history of that building. And that's what happened last year when I did my Halloween show there last year. A lot of people were able to connect with the history of that building and a secret history of that building they didn't even know. So I think there's a lot of ways to, again, integrate it. There's no reason, just because it's an entertainment show doesn't mean I'm not trying to make it meaningful and profound for the audience. But at the same time, it's also why I don't go by psychic too, because I feel like a psychic isn't an artist. A psychic, does, and I've done readings, I've done psychic work, but I also don't feel great using that title because I think we're all psychic. I feel like if I were to use the title psychic, that'd be like saying Joe Diamond, human being,
Okay, well, let me ask you this. Do you believe in psychics then?
Oh, of course. Of course. Actually, we're going to be doing ghost tours after the show. People who get VIP tickets for the show. A good friend of mine, Lauren Purcell, she is a psychic medium who I met at another haunted location where we both had studios at. It was an arts park. And they had done a lot of different work. And she actually calls herself Mystic Chick. And I was doing a show called Mystic at the time. So that was a cool, again, synchronicity. And it's great working with her. We've actually done seances together, and it's a similar kind of thing where I'll do a mind reading show. We'll take a break, and then she'll take over and walk people through an interactive seance, interactive spiritual exploration. and she's done historical tours and paranormal tours and everything else. And we really hit it off in that regard. Because yeah, same thing. Like another perfect example, when I've done these paranormal tours, I don't do any mind reading on them. I don't, for lack of a better term, use any tricks. We go through, I tell you the history, we do some like experiments with pendulums and stuff. And if stuff happens, stuff happens. I'm not rigging the place like it's the Haunted Mansion. I think that's a very clear morality I do have to take. That like, okay, yes, on stage, I'm an artist, but here we're walking through the theater. It's only 20 of us at night by flashlight. I'm going to be as open and honest of a human being as I can. And it's great working with Lauren too, because if I don't know the answer to something, she will know, and vice versa. Like she always has people go, "Oh, you're a psychic. Tell me what I'm thinking." Ha ha ha. And I actually have the opposite. I have people go, "Oh, you're a mind reader. Can you talk to my like dead relative?" And so we're like, "No, you have to talk to them." Like she's the medium. She can speak to the other side. I just talk to the living. And so I know how to use things like pendulums and stuff. But yeah, so it's been great to team up with her. She's got a fantastic story. She'd be great to come on the show as well too. And yeah, we're gonna be doing the stage show on the 25th, and then just flashlight tours on October 31st. So people will have a chance to be the only ones in the building by flashlight on Halloween night, which is a pretty profound and cool thing, especially in a building that's supposed to hold 400 people at a time.
Wow, that sounds like a lot of fun, man.
Yeah, it is. It is. Again, I've done tours with her in other places. I did a tour solo last year because she was already working in another location. So when I locked everything in to do it again this year, I was like, I called her up. I was like, "Lauren, I want to bring you on board for this. I want to book you. like here, I'm co-producing this. How much? Let me not know." And it's great. It's great being able to again work with her. She's worked in a lot of different fields. She actually has a background and her degree in psychology, so she actually has worked as like a therapist as well. And it's great for her when she's giving readings and such, because she knows when to be able to say, "Okay, this is beyond my scope. You need to go, seek more physical rather than metaphysical, solutions for this and such." And she's got wild stories of like doing readings for different people and different haunted locations she's gone to, and some of the research she's found stuff that, like, I was actively looking for information on certain things, and I couldn't find it, and like within like a week she's like, "Oh, I found this," and it's like, "How'd you?" She's like, I went to the library and found this book." I'm like, "I've been to that library. That book wasn't there when I went." But she just has that, gift to find certain information and connect, and again, really bring the true history of a place together and combine it with her paranormal skills. I feel like a lot of these paranormal tours, they either nail the history, but there's no real paranormal stuff. They might tell one or two ghost stories, but it's mostly a history talk, or it's all psychic stuff and they're trying to convince you that's real, but you're like, "Oh, I kind of want to know about this building. Like, when was it built?" And I don't know, but we're playing with dowsing rods, but I kind of want to know more about the building. And doing these things with her, we get like the best of both worlds. And everyone, the big claim to fame, the big thing I'm most proud of, is the husbands and partners that have been dragged there who aren't believers, who go, "This was the most fun I've had." And that means the world to us when that happens.
Wow. We got about 1 minute to go here before we have to go to break at the top of the hour. Joe Diamond is our guest tonight. His website, Joe Diamond Live. Joe, if you believe in psychics, why don't you consider yourself psychic? Is it because you're reading the mind, or
again, I do. I think we're all psychic. I think you're psychic. I'm psychic. We all have our gifts. Some of it's mind reading. Some of it's telepathy. Some people are mediums. Some people have completely different skills altogether. I just don't use that term professionally because, again, I work more with, entertainment shows, and I want to work as an artist. And people don't come to a psychic for art. They come for, more guidance type stuff. But I can still use the same techniques and skills, again, like pendulums and divination and so forth in my artistic work to give it that immediacy and realness with people.
I love it. Joe, hold on right there because we are going to go to break here at the bottom of the, or make that the top of the hour. Holy cow, I'm already a half hour behind. Joe Diamond Live is Joe's website. Check out his schedule there. You'd love to see him live. You really, really would. When we return, how does the paranormal and mind reading come together? On Spaced Out Radio, we're having a lot of fun tonight. I hope you are enjoying us tonight as well. We'll be right back for hour number 2. This is Spaced Out Radio with host Dave Scott. All right, we are clear. And we got about 6 minutes here. I'm just going to take a quick break. I'm going to put you back in the room, and I'll see you right back here, okay?
Perfect. See you in 6 minutes.
Okay. All right. I am back. And we'll bring Joe back in here when he's ready. Thank you tonight to Deb times 2 and T-Bone for the great super chats. Greatly appreciate your love and support of SOR. Don't forget you can shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. We do not have ugly swag, people. No ugly swag, so make sure you check it on out. And here we go, everybody. All right, here we go with hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you very much for taking the time to join us. We very much appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Oh, what is this? Decumbiture. Decumbiture is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam says the password each and every night, right here on Spaced Out Radio. The man, the myth, the mind-reading legend. We have Joe Diamond here hanging out with us. Joe Diamond Live is his website, so you make it joediamondlive.com. We'll throw the .com in there because that's kind of important there.
Yeah, a little bit.
Thank you so much for being here, my friend.
Thanks for having me. It's just great to see your face. Great to catch up.
Absolutely, it is. Absolutely. So let's make some conversation here about the paranormal and mind reading and everything. How do you combine the two?
Well, I mean, first off, to go back to your previous question about magic, it's always been tied with the paranormal, like always. The poster for the video watchers. This is Thurston, the Great Magician, the Wonder Show of the Universe, for his tour. Do the Spirits Come Back? Magicians have always combined the spirits, the paranormal, in their work. Both before they were in theaters and when they were in theaters. Harry Houdini, of course, was a big debunker of spiritualism, but that doesn't discredit the fact that half his shows were doing the spiritualism shtick and talking about it. Like that was his moneymaker for the last part of his life in many ways. And even now, pardon me, people like again, Penn and Teller had their Showtime show where they talked about psychics, religion, the Bible, the paranormal, even coffee and nostalgia and stuff. And as funny as that show was, again, I do not agree with everything on that show, and even they've admitted that they've changed their mind on a lot of stuff since that show was out. But I think the main reason why they're so connected is because ultimately both are trying to make sense of the mystery around us in whatever way we can. I feel like, and in many ways, I do try to make my shows feel like a really good ghost story or like a Twilight Zone episode that you are in. When I see a lot of magicians, they kind of, they do tend to not dive into that type of stuff. And I think it's because they're worried about people getting confused. And I definitely get that. But at the same time, I think they're leaving out a big piece of the pie. I mean, this is about dealing with the unknown, dealing with mysteries. And the paranormal in all its forms fascinate me. I think it's why I'm interested in both, is because I'm interested in mystery and the unknown and trying to capture that mystery while at the same time making sense of it in a way for myself. And yeah, I also feel more comfortable talking about the paranormal versus the supernatural, because paranormal to me means outside of the normal and supernatural means extra natural. And to me, that gets closer to religion and spirituality. I definitely consider myself a spiritual person, but I see it as something different than, again, going on a paranormal investigation or doing research into a haunted building like the Woodstock Opera House and that kind of stuff.
How has being able to have that level of intuition that you do help you during a paranormal experience where people claim they are talking to ghosts, where people claim that they are talking with spirit?
Yeah, let's face it. Let's just, what you kind of dipped your toe in, and I'm gonna kind of do a cannonball. There are people who claim to do those things and they can't. They flat out can't. They've done research on people. They have cheated and claim to have a gift that they do not. And yes, we could talk about them as well, but I think they're rare. I think they're rarer than corrupt conservative Christian pastors, and I will leave it at that. And there's a lot of them in America. I'm in America, but I'm in the Midwest, which is the worst of everywhere. It's the worst of the East Coast, West Coast, the South, and the North. Everyone's nice, but deep down, no one agrees on anything. But anyway, where was I going? Oh, right, the paranormal and pastors and all that, and people who claim to do it. What some would call a BS meter, and that's the other thing. I think we all have a BS meter. I think we all kind of know. Like, it's funny. I remember years ago, seeing a shortchange con happen in Chicago. It was actually at a theater that I was doing shows at, and I remember as the guy was doing it, he made a very good case and everything else, and as soon as his hand touched the door and he walked out, I was on the other side of the lobby. I looked over at they'd given him a 20 to make change. He said he was going to come back with the change in a moment, but he needed it. He had just told this big, long, convoluted story, and the one was just like, okay, yeah, fine, this is weird. But then, as soon as he stepped out the door, we all in unison all looked at each other and went, oh, wait, no, that's wrong. In that perfect instant, we all knew it. He somehow was able to keep that, meter turned off until he was literally, the split second he was out of the room. And big surprise, I went to the other business he said he needed change for, and they were like, yeah, he came in here saying the same thing to us about, and then named another business down the street. So we all have those for sure. And I met people where I'm like, oh, I don't think this person is totally on the up and up. I don't think this person yeah. So it's white ladies who culturally appropriate other religions or other cultures and claim to be shaman or holy women, and it's like, your name is Deborah, chill. But and again, not disparaging the people who genuinely are, let me be clear about that. But you can just kind of tell, oh, okay. And I've done my best to try to distance myself from some of those. I think a lot of them, when it comes to coming into a paranormal place, I want to be as open-minded as possible. When I go into the Woodstock Opera House and we're all there by flashlight, my two goals are, one, to be a guide and take care of everyone. Two, listen, not just to all the things in the room, but with other people. And also to just kind of turn off even my intuition to a certain extent, because my intuition might wonder how much of them is exaggerating and everything. I can kind of turn it off and I can just listen to the ghost story and take it in and be, for lack of a better term, a good audience for that person. Because very often people don't want to share their stories even in this building. They want to tell me about the time they lived in a house in the 80s and all that stuff. And I never, it's too, I think that's why I don't remember them very often unless the people write about me or follow up with me on them, because sometimes I do hear great stories. Uh, but there's also, but also because of, again, intuition, my skill as a mind reader and performer. Like I'm good at like in an audience knowing like where to go, who to pick for things, because I know they're going to react or give like the best like moment. I feel the same way when we do these paranormal explorations, because I can just tell when people are talking and they're not sure if they want to share. So I'll let them share it with me. And if I'm truly engrossed in it and it's truly special, I'll have them share with everyone else. For example, at the Woodstock Opera House last year, there is the legend of the Opera House is that it's been haunted by the spirit of an actress who took her own life in the building in the late 1890s. Her name was Elvira. Now, there's lots of conflicting stories. Some say she jumped out of the tower. Some say she hanged herself. Some say she poisoned herself. There's not a lot of records for that, and I believe I know why, which again we'll get to later. But she has a designated seat in the theater, DD113. It's up in the balcony. If you're on stage looking straight ahead, if straight ahead of you is 12 o'clock, she's at around 1:30, 1:45, her seat. And I had heard lots of stories of actors being in that theater and talking about the seat going down as if while they were rehearsing, while no one else was in the theater. And then when they were done with their rehearsal, the seat would go up on its own. And I also heard stories about people clapping from that area. Well, while we were going through the theater with only, a small handful of people, about 20, this woman was telling her friends a story. I went over, asked what was going on. She said, well, I used to be a ballerina dancer, and we would perform here and we would practice here. And I can see spirits. And I would see Elvira up here sitting in this seat. And I told one of my friends, and she didn't see her, but she saw the seat go down. And these were like 12, 13-year-old girls. So, of course, you tell one person, they tell everyone. Pandemonium struck out because the girls would be mid-dance and the seat would start to go down. And it got so bad that her instructor had to tell them, when you dance on this stage, don't look up. Do not look at the balcony. Like, for it to get that bad, for so many people to see it that frequently was fascinating. It was a fascinating story. I had to share it with everyone. And it was a Halloween night. We were closing up. I had my last case. Everyone was left. I was on stage. The ghost light was on. And I looked up at the seat and I was just like, that was a great story, Elvira. And as I said that, the seat just went down. And I said, Happy Halloween. And I walked out and I could hear it going as I left through the backstage area of the theater. So maybe I had heard the story. I was in this place. Maybe I was more suggestible. Maybe, again, a group of 13-year-old girls aren't the best, impartial paranormal investigators for it. But again, that story, that for it to get that bad with that group, and again, that so many other performers have seen that happen or heard applause from that area for a good shot of like 50 years or so. Even if I do have a theory that it's not the spirit of a departed person, I actually have more of a theory that it could be something known as a tulpa. If you've heard of that.
That's interesting. Why do you think that?
Well, just because there's not. Well, for the longest time, I could find no information about Elvira. And here's the thing: I heard just as many stories that she was made up, but they were all different. Some people said Orson Welles made her up. Some people said Shelley Berman made him up or made her up because Shelley Berman performed in that theater. Paul Newman performed in that theater before he was famous. Some people say he invented the. So the fact that there were the fact that just as many people claim to have invented the story, and that story is so unverified, and I couldn't find anything. So I thought, okay, maybe it's just one of those things where the story's been told so many times it has become true. Maybe it is something like that. Maybe, it's a game of telephone or the friend of a friend of a friend and all that stuff. Until, while doing my research, I found out why I couldn't find anything. And that was because in what was the year? I'm going to kick myself. I want to say 1914. Right about that. The theater caught fire. The theater used to be City Hall as well, and all the records were downstairs. And there was one person who died. There was a vagrant in the basement, two vagrants down in the basement who started a fire to keep warm, and the fire got out of control, and one of the vagrants did die. This happened during a packed, sold-out performance in that room, in the theater. There were over 400 men in attendance for a wrestling match. And when the smoke started coming up and the fire started coming up, they literally leapt out of the balcony, leapt out the windows onto the building next door to escape the smoke and flames. Nobody died. The only person who died was this one vagrant in the basement. So the fact that that kind of pandemonium and that kind of, a fire, which destroys all the, local records, on the first level of the building, and only one person died, that's a minor miracle in and of itself. But my other theory is that if there was anyone about Elvira, a true Elvira, it was lost in the fire, and will unfortunately never know, at least maybe in this lifetime. Well, again, we can have theories, but we'll never really know for sure. Or it's this other vagrant. It's the spirit of this vagrant trying to get their story heard, because they keep hearing the story of Elvira and no one knows his name. No one knows his story. In fact, last year for Halloween, the second act is I told the audience we were going to make up a ghost story, and we picked a bunch of people at random, and even despite, I had a bag full of different tickets and I told them to move their hand around like a Ouija board, and that one person took out their ticket. Everyone checked all the others. They were all different. They got the wrestling match ticket. I asked someone, how could someone become a ghost? They said fire. I asked people to try and get, there's two theories of the initials and the age that the person was, and the person got those spot on. So the second half was kind of like, I claimed we were going to create a ghost story, but at the end I had this giant written out piece of paper of the whole true story that happened. So it kind of, and again, I love that as like a Twilight Zone episode kind of premise that, this ghost story turned out that we thought we were making up turned out to be true. Because, and I knew this too, because I knew if I knew the story and the story happened in this building and enough people came who were open and intuitive to it, they would literally get the story. And they, because that story is crying out to be told. And they did, and it was wonderful. I was so happy to do it. I was so happy to tell people about this part of history that they didn't know, because everyone knows about Elvira, but no one knows about this vagrant. So that was a really, really incredible chance to do that. But also, I knew I would only be able to do it once, because once people now the story's become more popular, more people in the area. That was the other thing for the more skeptical people who thought, maybe once we picked this, he somehow got someone to write that down and put it in that envelope that was on stage. But when they Googled it, they saw the whole story was true, which was really, really awesome for people to be emailing me the next day, the next week, saying, we looked up the story and yeah, it's true. We found the news article, we found this, we found that. And that means the world to me. But again, ironically now I can't ever do it again. So that's why this year we're talking about, Orson Welles, and we're going to do, again, more of what they would do in kind of like an old school demonstration of spiritualism or mesmerism to get people in a more suggestible state. People under the effects of mesmerism were known to uh, be able to channel spirits and such and everything. So some of those techniques do still work, and they're close enough to my mind reading techniques that I can still implement those for other people. And so yeah, it's a great way again to bring all that together and bring those stories out that not everyone always gets a chance to see, let alone live.
Joe Diamond is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. We got 3 minutes before we got to go to break here at the bottom of the hour. Joe, I believe in tulpas. I believe there's one in my local museum. We call her Agnes McVie, where back in the day, we know Agnes lived. We know she is on record for being in British Columbia, but there is no record of her arrest for allegedly murdering 62 men on the Gold Rush Trail. So I know what you're talking about, that when you put energy into things, that weird things can happen. Have you ever looked into the Philip experiment?
A little bit when I was starting to look into it, but again, I found all this other history, so I didn't get the chance to go fully down that rabbit hole. That is something I genuinely want to look into and really want to look into. I will say this: there have been a lot of UFO sightings in the Woodstock area. Some people think it's Mothman, but I think it's hilarious how Orson Welles did the famous War of the Worlds broadcast. And the closer and closer we get to Halloween, there have been more and more like UFO sightings and everything. So I'm starting to go more into that realm now, leading up to this, because there's lots of cool things happening. Several people claim they've been seeing Mothman. Several people have been like someone was trying to complain to the cops about a drone being flown, but there wasn't a drone and there wasn't any sound. And then they realized, oh, that's just a white circle, and then it took off. So there's a lot of stuff like that happening, and I do not know if it's tied into Orson Welles. I don't know if it's tied into that building, because that's like in the center of town, and it's kind of like a hot spot for a lot of things. And that whole town square has lots of different haunted locations. There's a whole ghost tour that goes around the square as well. But so I'm just kind of looking at it like, oh, maybe this Woodstock, Illinois area is a type of hotspot that's drawing all sorts of stuff, not just the energies that are in the theater. So I want to get back to looking into tulpas more in the Philip experiment, but for right now, I'm knee deep in Orson Welles and UAPs and UFOs. To quote Judah Freelander, I've never seen a UFO because every single time I've been able to correctly identify the alien spacecraft.
Well, if you got some aliens, you got good things going on. You know, we love a good set of aliens around here. It's just what we do, But do you think, actually, I'll ask you that when we return, because I'm going to get you to hold on, right? We are at our break time at the bottom of the hour. Joe Diamond is here. We're going to take some audience questions if you're in our YouTube chat or on X at #SpacedOutRadio. We'll get those questions to Joe. And more magic, more paranormal coming up right after this.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott.
All right, we are clear, my man. Got 5 minutes.
Perfect.
5 minutes. 5 minutes. John Jackson, how you doing? Excuse me, guys. Eric Cooper, what are you doing here? It's been way too long. Bobbert, how you doing? No quick card tricks, Joe? Not tonight.
I can do something quick. If you, I'll tell you what. How about are we wrapping up at 1? What time do you and I
Yeah,
wrap
we're
up?
at the top of the hour.
Okay. How about this? How about we'll close it out at around 12:45 with some interactive stuff with you and the listeners. Okay.
All right, let's do that because I love it
All
when
right.
you do that. I know
Oh
our
yeah,
listeners.
of course. Yeah.
And Eric Cooper, how's the beard? Give us a beard update if you don't mind, Coop. Tim, the last time that Joe read my mind, it freaked me out. When's your next tour there, Joe?
So the next ghost tours at the Woodstock Opera House are October 25th after my stage show, and then Halloween night. So the stage show is the 25th. There are some VIP tickets where you can do the show and the tour for that night, but then Halloween night, it's a Thursday, so we're just going to do tours, and they sold out super quick last year, so we're gonna do a few of those, and so if someone's on the fence of coming to the Midwest for the tour, get your tickets sooner than later because they were all sold out by midway through September 16th or 17th last year. So the show seats 400 people. I have sold it out. It's still a grind, and honestly, right now is because of Fool Us, everything is so booked up. Like every single weekend is booked with private shows for me. So I am just gonna be doing those gigs while also just promoting the heck out of this Halloween show and these paranormal tours. And then after that, we go into the holiday season with November and December. So yeah, so that's the big schedule ahead. I'm always updating for anyone who's still watching, joediamondlife.com/schedule. You'll see my full schedule and /Halloween if anyone wants to see the specific Halloween stuff. If they're going to be in the Midwest or want to come to the Midwest in October, let me know. Say you're a Spaced Out Radio fan. I'd love to see you. Love to chat with you. Okay, real quick, Bob Berkins. Don't ask an American what is weak-minded during an election year. Don't do that. Don't do that. I'm going to go for the easy joke. I'm going to go for the easy joke, and I'm going to alienate half my audience. Don't do that. Don't do that. So we'll just leave it at that. Remember when I was the only one into conspiracy theories in my area? It was so fun. I was so unique. Now my uncle's into them. It's weird. Dang it.
I hear you, my man. I hear you. All right, we got about 90 seconds.
Cool.
90 seconds.
Oh, someone's asking to predict the lotto number so I can win. Sure thing, Resonate. Write these down. They'll be for well, I won't know for what date. But the winning numbers at some point will be 8, 12. Oh, wait. Resonate, you're not going to do good things with the money. I can't in good conscience give you these numbers. Sorry.
Oh, Juliana, how are you? Good to see you. Oh. Big thank you tonight to Area 53, Deb times 2, and T-Bone, my man, for the great super chats tonight. Very much appreciate the love and support. Don't forget, shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. We do not have ugly swag, people. No ugly swag. You can wear our stuff out in public and actually be proud to wear it because it's not ugly. You can wear it to more places than the local flea market, the local garage sale, mowing your lawn, gardening, painting, cleaning the house. Yeah, you can do that anywhere you want wearing our stuff because we have nice stuff at spacedoutradio.com. We got about 10 seconds here.
Okay.
Here we go. All right, here comes the second half of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. We're talking magic and paranormal with mentalist Joe Diamond. We'll bring Joe back here momentarily, but first we want to remind all of you that if you missed portions of this show or others, you can check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. JoeDiamondLive.com is his website. Joe Diamond, mentalist, magician, a guy who's really funky with cards. Yeah. Talks to dead people.
Disappointment to his parents. I have a lot of I wear a lot of hats for this line of work for sure. Just Joe Diamond. That's easy. That's easy to remember. Then I can do whatever I want, and it's on brand.
Ready for some audience questions? There's a few.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Let's go to S for Matt, good Canadian kid. Can you block telepathy or mind reading?
Absolutely. I mean, that's one of the challenges of doing it on stage, because the person can just lie and say no. Like, that's the thing. I am putting a lot of trust in people. I will occasionally, so coming up with ways to prove that, I got it is actually really difficult. I mean, sometimes I'll write it down beforehand and then have the person say it out loud. Like, I'll commit myself. Sometimes I'll have them write it down. I'll say what it is, and then we see what they got. Sometimes I'll have them pick a word from a book, so that way we know it's random. Sometimes I'll, like I've been doing something recently where someone has with cards, they're holding a fan of cards for like a card game, and I say, if I name a card in your hand, take it out and hand it to me, or take it out and drop it on the floor. So, and that's great, because that person, the audience now knows that person can't just be lying and saying yes, like, to help me too. I have to get those actual things, which is nice for those things. But also, even if I do all those things, all I need is for someone to, for example, think of their mom's name, and then purposefully think of 18 different names, or purposefully just not work with me. It's like all communication. Like, if we were talking on the phone right now instead of through the internet, Dave, and all of a sudden the call dropped, if we tried calling each other back at the same time, no connection would be made. If we both sat around waiting for the other person, no connection would be made. So block telepathy / mind, all you have to do is not pick up the phone. So that's why you do need a good sender and receiver for this stuff. Otherwise, that is it's the easiest thing in the world to block, and which also is what's so frustrating sometimes, because I can go off on the way wrong course. It actually happened the other night, and then I do have because I don't know at which point it took me off on a different trajectory, basically. And but I mean, the fun of it too is sometimes that happens, and I have to, as an improviser, as a performer, connect with the audience. And I've learned if I just love the audience, even if I'm wrong, they'll usually forgive me, as long as it doesn't happen for everything in the entire show.
Well, I hope so. We'll try and forgive you on this one. Let's go to a follow-up from S for Matt. According to experiencers, telepathy is possible with ET, which means humans can do it. How come we can't seem to do it between two humans?
Again, I think I think we can. I don't think it comes as naturally for some people as others. But again, like my argument is the fact that we have empathy, the way that the reason we have that shows that we can. It's just not our primary form of communication at this point. That said, the other thing too is it's you have to know your own mind as well. Like the joke with when people ask my wife, like, "Oh, does your husband read your mind around the house?" And she always says, "Not if he knows what's good for him." But if she doesn't know what she wants for dinner, reading her mind ain't gonna do any good. Like you have to know what you're thinking in order to send it. And there's so much that we don't even know our own minds. We don't even know what we want most of the time. So so I think that's the other reason why it's hard. Like you might be trying to pick up on something from someone before they've fully like figured out the thought, before they've fully locked in on it. And that's why it has to be you have to set up at the start that, okay, we're going to do this. And you can't just do it randomly without the other person, again, sending or receiving.
Let's move on to another question. Let's go over to, let's see, Nikki here. What is your opinion on ETs and aliens?
Again, I'm fairly, I'm very open-minded with it. I haven't done a lot of like devoted research to just ETs and aliens. I've looked at a lot of UFOs, UAPs, crop circles, which I know is in the same realm. But there are theories that even crop circles may be more interdimensional than or spiritual even than full-on UFOs, ETs, aliens. I know that there's differences between all these. I'm still very much a novice with all of it, but I find it fascinating. I think there's a lot of just, again, the fact that there's the theory when Orson Welles did, and I'm going to talk about this a little bit at Halloween at the Woodstock Opera House, is when he did his War of the Worlds broadcast, people did see UFOs. Now, was it a suggestion? Were those a form of tulpa? Because like mass broadcasting on that level and that level of had never happened before. So who knows our human beings as a species, how we were able to process that at the time. So who knows how that's affected it since then. Again, for good or ill, I'm not here to say it's one or the other, but I think it has. I like to think that it is more of a consciousness and spiritual thing, and that is likely why we don't have a ton of great like photo and video evidence, at least of UFOs and stuff like that. I think there is some. Same thing with ghost photos and everything. I think it is a lot of it is our own perspective and our own, like we are, again, spiritual, emotional beings, and cameras are not. I will be the first to admit when I see, someone sends me a picture and they say it's an orb, and I'm like, sorry, that's dust, clean your lens. But I've also seen a lot of stuff I can't explain, pardon me, in photos, and I've seen with my own eyes that did not come up clearly in photos. And again, that's my own personal theory, I guess, for a lot of paranormal phenomena in general. Like again, if they are interdimensional, it makes sense that a photo from our dimension can't, or a camera from our dimension can't capture that. But if we're perceiving it and we're tapped into that other dimension or whatever, we can. Again, this is all from a guy who's literally read 2 articles and read a bunch of books from Reader's Digest from the 80s. So I'm not an expert by any means, but that is my opinion, and I'd love to learn more.
All right, let's move on to another question here, because I think we got time for 1 or 2 more before you want to get to a quick trick here. So
we'll
Eric,
do. I'll tell you what. We'll do some mind reading with the listeners in the live chat, and then we can follow up for people who watch us after the fact to see if that works, and then you and I can do something, Dave.
All right, Eric wants to know, what do you think of channeling aliens?
I've been trying to with pendulums. I'll say it. I've been trying. I've used pendulums. I've gone outside the Woodstock Opera House or on that town square, and I've asked if there are any spiritual alien extraterrestrial beings. Half the time the pendulum has said yes. Half the time it has not given me a response at all. So maybe I wasn't tuned in. Maybe they weren't there at the time. Again, still very new at it. I think pendulums are great, and I hope we learn more in the near future.
Okay, let's sneak in one more from Ian in the UK. Joe, where do you think the word magic comes from?
Yeah, for the audio listeners, he's got it's spelled MAJIK and the current term. It's different for different languages and stuff. We could talk for 2 hours just about the history of this word. I'll tell you where it goes for me though, and kind of my journey. I went to 12 years of Baptist school. As I said on Penn and Teller, Fool Us, it didn't take. But I was always fascinated that it was the Magi who sought out the Christ child. And how did they seek him out? They saw his star. They were from the East. They were east of the Middle East and, China, India, Tibet, all that stuff. They were astrologers and they were astronomers. They saw a new star in the skies and took that as enough of a sign to take a 3-year road trip to find this toddler. And none of them were Jewish or conservative Christian. They were magi, they were magicians. They looked at the arcane and occult symbols of the world. And again, occult means secret or hidden. They looked at those symbols and took that journey. So even by the book that many people use to say, oh, you shouldn't do magic, you shouldn't do this, seem to just gloss over that the first group of guys or group of people, we don't know for sure, they were just magi. They showed up and because they saw his star in the east. And I don't know why we don't know more about them and their teachings, but we do know more about the fishermen. I will say my favorite word is abracadabra. One of my favorite words. I love it because it's a combination of Hebrew and Aramaic. It is close to 15, 20,000 years old, as far as we can tell. I may be getting those years totally wrong, but abracadabra is a combination of Hebrew and Aramaic, and it means I create as I speak. And I can't think of a more, again, that's what an artist does. That's what a poet does, a writer. That's what a magician does. And so that's my personal insight into the history and origin of magi and magic and abracadabra.
Love it. All right, let's we got about 10 minutes.
Perfect.
You want to perform some magic?
Yeah, we'll do.
Sorry, we're
What's
going to
that?
have to remember that we're going to have to describe this for our radio audience.
Yes, we'll describe this for our radio audience. In fact, this first one, our radio audience can follow along with us. Okay? So we'll do this with the live listeners. The people who are just listening can follow along. And if you're listening or watching the recording later, try this out as well. It should work as well. I am going to send all of you a thought. I'm going to think about a memory from my past. I will project it out to all of you, and we'll see how many of you receive the psychic transmission. Now, couple ground rules. Number one, Dave, don't shout your answers out loud. People in the chat, don't type them yet. If you're listening or watching this with someone else, don't say your answers out loud, and don't think about it too much. Okay, go with whatever comes to you naturally. Intuition is knowing without knowing. Okay, so best you can, sit up straight. And this isn't a trick. This may not work. Some of you might get all of these. Some of you might get none of these. But that's what makes it telepathy. That's what makes it fun. So take a deep breath and exhale. Very good. And If you're watching, just look at me, look in my eyes on the screen. If you're just listening, just listen to the sound of my voice. Take one more deep breath. As you exhale, get in your mind a number from 1 to 10. Lock it in your mind. Don't change it. Remember that number. Okay, we'll do it again. Take another deep breath. And as you exhale, get in your mind a direction on a compass. Lock it in your mind. Don't change it. Remember that direction. All right. And finally, take one last deep breath. As you exhale, I want you to get in your mind 2 simple geometric shapes, one inside the other, like a square inside something else. Not a square, though, since I just said it. Got it. Got it. Remember those 2 shapes. All right. Let's see how all of you did. This is I was thinking about a memory. It's a pretty common memory. I wanted a common one because that would be the most likely for everyone to relate to and empathize with. I was thinking about my first day of high school, and I couldn't find geometry class, so I asked someone where it was, and they said it was on the north side of the building. So if you got north, we'll consider that a hit. I got to the classroom and noticed there were 7 students. They were sitting in like those yellow chairs and all that, on desks, plastic yellow chairs. And when I sat down, I noticed the teacher had drawn on the chalkboard a circle and a triangle. So if you got either of those, that would be a hit. It looks like people are already coming through with the chat. Yep, triangle with a circle inside, north. A triangle inside a larger parallelogram. I love how a larger parallelogram is a simple shape for you. Great. Dave, how'd you do?
I was 9 west.
Okay.
Triangle in circle.
Okay, so you got the shape. So you're much more of a visual thinker, something to see rather than all of that. Looks like someone got I thought I saw someone said they got the color yellow at some point. Triangle, circle. 6 north. I don't know if anyone got 7. That's interesting. That's usually the one that people usually get, but everyone got the more complicated one, so that's good. Awesome. Okay, so yeah, 7 north. Oh, someone got 7 north, circle and a triangle, and 7 west. The 2 shapes, again, the circle inside the triangle. That's the really difficult one. So if you got either of those, that's great. But if you got that configuration, that's even better. I typed square, but I meant triangle and a circle. Good save. Good save, Raw Dog. So that's a perfect example of just not thinking about it too much. You just go with whatever comes to you naturally. A big secret to intuition is, how many times have you said to yourself, I should have gone with my initial guess. So I'll give you one more perfect example. Dave, have I ever asked you to think of your the first person you can remember having a crush on? Have I ever asked you to do this?
No.
Please think of the first person you can remember having a crush on. I'm going to draw something here. Now a couple things. First off, when I say first, do one of the first people you can remember having a crush on. It doesn't have to be the exact first person. Don't want to get you in trouble. Also, this can be like a celebrity crush as well. It doesn't have to be the actual person you knew. So if you want to pick JD for Joe Diamond as your celebrity crush.
Celebrity crush.
Okay, perfect. Okay, that's fine. Don't, in fact, change your pick if you had other celebrity crushes. Change your mind to one other crush, because I don't even want to know if it's a celebrity. Okay. So think about that. And I want you to imagine you're back in those teenage years, and instead of a pencil and pad, you got a pocket knife and a tree, and you're going to carve, because I drew a heart on here, you're going to carve your initials into the tree and then do one of those little pluses. Now, everyone do this along with me and see if you can get this. This is a little hard to hold up in frame. I'm going to angle my camera down. Okay, so Dave, I need you to look right at the camera you've got, not at the screen at me. I need you to look right at your camera. There's a little bit of a glare on your glasses, but I think this should still work. Yeah, this will be good. I want you to think of the first initial for me and recite the alphabet for me. Just out loud, just recite the alphabet.
All right. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, QRSTUVWXYNZ because I'm Canadian. Z.
Yeah. Okay. All right. All right. That might have thrown me off a little bit. That's okay. All right. Again, just imagine you're gonna carve this. You're carving their initials. So think of you thought of the first initial. Think of the second initial. Again, look at the screen. Don't react. I'm gonna recite the alphabet, but backwards. ZYXWVUT SRQPONML KJIHGFEDCBA. I believe these are both consonants. Neither are vowels. Is that correct?
Correct.
These letters are consonants. Okay. I'm going to commit then. I'm going to go with. I don't want you to see what I'm writing, but I'm trying to keep this in frame. All right. Pencil down. I'll hold this up here so you can see it and I can't change my mind. So Dave Scott, what were the initials of the crush you were thinking of? You can tell us.
HT.
There was a bit of a lag. H and what?
T.
H and T. So this was a celebrity, you said?
Yes.
It was. Okay. I apologize again with the penmanship and everything, but I keep this in frame. Sorry if there's a bit of a glare. But I almost went with the opposite order, but I did write DS plus HT. And for the audio listeners, if you haven't figured it out, I did indeed draw a heart with the initials DS plus HT inside. And you can watch the video back at the Spaced Out Radio YouTube page if you think we are lying. There you go.
I had the biggest crush on Heather Thomas. I had every poster of hers in my bedroom. Every one.
Nice.
Yes.
Nice. Yes, I could not find the Sports Illustrated I had of Brooke Burke because I would have, if I still had it, I would have brought to Vegas and asked her to sign it. Totally, hands down, absolutely.
Oh, I can't stand it when you do that to me because it freaks me out.
I'm glad it freaks you out. So I am just adding at the top here, Spaced Out Radio and today's date. I will take a picture of this and I will send it to you so you can share it on social media and stuff later on, Scott. So again, when people wonder and if they think we're just playing along, they can again watch this back or look it up online to see it's legit. So, and if you still don't believe it, come to one of my shows. I'm traveling all over the country as well too with different corporate events and such. So if you know someone who's looking for crazy entertainment for their holiday party, or there's a theater in your area, like I travel. I book shows. I travel. This is what I do. So there she is, Heather Thomas. Perfect.
That I think every age man young man of the 80s had. Oh,
nice.
I love her.
Nice. That's great.
Heather,
That's great. That's great.
My crush still goes on 35 years later.
That's amazing because there's someone right here I want you to meet. No, I'm kidding. She's not here. That would have been great. That would have been great.
Time for us to wrap it up. Joe Diamond Live. You can find.
Thank you, Dave Scott.
JoeDiamondLive.com. Everybody, coming up next, Swamp Dweller, Robin Haynes, the Dave 101, and the Weird News of the Week. All coming up next in hour 3.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott.
All right, Joe. Thank you very much, my man. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate it too. Thank you so much. Really, really appreciate it. This is always a blast. So yeah, if you want to do anything else down the line, of course, let me know. I'm always down to fill in, or got tons of other topics we can cover and such, or I can just Someone said I would have just taken 30 minutes of card tricks. I can do that as well. So,
Well, we'll do it again. So you take care, and we'll
thank
talk to you
you.
soon.
Thank you so much, Dave, and all the Space Out Radio listeners. Take care. There's the horns for you.
All right, buddy. I'll be right back, everyone. Heather Thomas. Man, that drives me nuts how he got that. Oh, there's Robin Haynes waiting for us, hanging on out. All right. All right. got a little bit of a headache. Oh. Thank you tonight to Area 53, Deb Times2, and T-Bone for the great super chats. Beverly Hassel, welcome to SOR chat. Travis Willier moose-toosing away as no one else moose-tooses. Nice to see you. All right. Here we go. Third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. We're always proud to have you hanging on each and every night while we wrap each other in tinfoil and make sweet love to the topics of the woo. At least with our voices. Kind of romantic. Okay, I'm trying. There's no candles on here, but just give me a break. It's okay. Hey, I want to say thank you and hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. What do you got for us tonight, Clam? Where is it? Where are you hiding? Decumbiture. Decumbiture is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. All right, let's head to the swamp.
Hello and welcome to Spaced Out Radio's Swamp. I'm Swamp Dweller, and tonight I'm going to take you on a mystic journey of the unknown, sharing tales of monsters, legends, and nightmares. Welcome to the Spaced Out Radio Swamp. This story I'm about to tell has been on my mind since it happened, and I don't think it'll ever leave my memory. I live up north in a lovely, friendly town. I was an atheist and didn't believe in any spiritual or paranormal stuff, but this incident is what changed everything. I went to stay the night at my aunt's house, who lives in a big cabin in a wooded area with my grandpa. Grandpa used to be a pretty avid former hunter. I was getting everything from my mother's car, bags, pillows, blankets, and everything else. I went into the house, dropped everything on the couch, and got some water from the fridge. Later, my mom left to return home, and my brother was left with my aunt. I felt generous and helped clean the house and sweep some wood debris. I went outside and chopped some wood for the fire and stacked it up for my grandpa. I got up and turned around to go outside to help cook, but while I got up, I saw something standing. I couldn't tell if it was looking at me or if my mind was just playing tricks on me. I decided not to overthink it and went inside. I chopped up some potatoes for dinner because my aunt was making soup. Everything was going well, and I soon remembered about my figure I may have seen a few hours later. I was starting up in the back, and then I heard what sounded like a person. They were saying, "Hey you, sir, can you help me with something real quick?" I was spooked and confused. My aunt lives in the middle of the woods. There wasn't another house for another 20, 30 miles, but I thought it may have been a camper. So I answered, "Hello? Where are you?" I got no answer in return. I got a gut feeling that there was just something wrong. So I slowly backed away while staring where the voice was coming from. When I got to the door, I ran inside and locked it immediately because I couldn't take that type of chance. My aunt saw me, asked why I was inside and not outside doing what I was supposed to do. I didn't really acknowledge her or the question. I was so confused and afraid that I was frozen and kept staring outside into the pitch-black darkness. I soon snapped out of it when my aunt grabbed and shook my shoulder. I glanced at her and she asked, "What's wrong? Are you all right?" I didn't say anything for a few more seconds, and when I did, I said, "Auntie, I think there's something outside." She responded with, "What?" In confusion, she looked at me like I was playing some sort of trick, but she knew I was not a man of games and tricks. I said, "I don't know. Someone or something just asked me for help, and that's all." She asked where. I pointed into the darkness, which seemed like a void. I looked over to see my aunt back away, 3 steps behind me with a blank expression. She yelled at me, "Get away from the door!" She grabbed my hand and sped walked into her room with me, grabbed my brother, and got everyone in the same room. Once everyone was in, she locked the door and closed the blinds. She grabbed her sage, quickly sprinkled it around, and burned it. Since she's shamanic, and burning sage is said to clear negative energy, I kind of felt a little more comfortable after she did this. I asked her while trembling, "What's going on? Are we going to be okay?" My aunt seemed to have ignored me, so she went to my grandpa and whispered something into his ear. After he looked terrified and stared at me, my aunt calmly walked over to me and said, "Honey, be honest with me. Did you see anyone?" I hesitated and said, "No, only a voice." She stood up and my grandpa's expression worsened. After standing there for a while, she told me faintly, so my brother wouldn't hear, "You just encountered a skinwalker, dear." I got a pulse of fear in my body. I thought my body began shaking worse. A skinwalker? That's just a myth, a legend. But this wasn't easy to agree with or believe. I just heard a man's voice in the middle of nowhere in the dark. After an hour of waiting, my aunt got her rifle, helped my grandpa up, and told us to stay close to her. We went outside and quickly got into her car. We left everything there, and all I had was my phone in my pocket, which I am using to tell this story today. We backed out of there and went through the roads and trails that took us out of there. My aunt drove like a bat out of hell. She stayed silent the whole way back to town. I was getting drowsy but couldn't stop thinking about what we had just encountered. My little brother soon dozed off and fell asleep the whole ride. My aunt and grandpa stayed in our house for a couple of weeks after that. On the 5th week, she and my grandpa left, and before I could say anything, she gave me a protective crystal and some of her sage just in case. A day after she left, we had never actually heard from her or my grandfather ever again.
Thank you, Swamp Dweller, for another creepy story. If you want more just like that, head on over to his YouTube channel, Swamp Dweller Reads. Hit subscribe. He's got over 300,000 subscribers. Listen to stories each and every day. All right, let's say hello to Robin Haynes. Robin Haynes, always good to have you on Spaced Out Radio. How you doing, my friend?
I'm good. It's always good to be here. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Doing great. A little bit of a headache tonight, but that's okay. That's okay.
I'm already ready for Nebraska, so we can all get together again.
What's that, in 6 months, 8 months?
I know. I wish it would hurry up. We had so much fun.
Right. Detour me through Vegas. That's all I
Yeah,
ask.
no, we're going to find a different route for you, my friend. We
Las
didn't get nearly
Vegas?
enough time with you.
Las Vegas to Nebraska worked perfectly.
Well, we're going to have to, yeah, that's the way you're going to have to come, because going the other way, you could have walked and got there quicker. I mean, it was awful. I felt so bad.
Oh, it was an adventure for sure.
Oh my goodness. And you were such a good sport about it. You're just the best. You were like such in good spirits no matter what. But we missed so much time with you. So it's going to be very nice to, take you a different route.
Well, you know what? It's I can't wait to get back down there for the Nebraska Bigfoot Conference next year in 2024. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm totally changing my entire presentation. I've decided on that.
Oh, it was really good though. Everybody loved it. Like you were a rock star.
Wait until I break down Flight 21.
It'll be good.
It'll scare the hell out of people.
Well, I
It
tell
will.
you what, everybody loved you. The only complaint we had was we didn't get you long enough because you got stuck at the airport. So we're going to make sure that's rectified. But we absolutely loved having you there, and everybody just adored you.
Well, I'm good people. I'm good people.
You're
You
the
know?
best people.
Oh,
So,
now,
yeah, I can't wait. I'm excited. And I'll be living in Texas by then. So I'm just going to drive over to Nebraska rather than fly. So we'll have a car so we can get around easier.
that is perfect. That is perfect. I just want to eat at that Mexican restaurant again.
Wasn't that good? I was thinking that a second ago. That was so good. That was a nice little Mexican restaurant. We're definitely getting a different hotel, though, this year.
Yeah.
They screwed things up so badly over there. We are not going there again. So different hotel, but we're definitely going to hit the Mexican restaurant.
Oh,
And we've got the same building as before, so we'll have lots of space in there to do whatever we need to do. So it's going to be fun. It gets better every year, and every year I say it can't get better, and it does.
for people who don't know, there was this Mexican restaurant across from our hotel, and it had the biggest plates of food I think I've ever seen in front of. And I'm a huge eater, especially when it comes to Mexican food. I like to take out, and I could not finish my plate.
And their
And
food was good, though.
oh my goodness, the enchilada I ordered was probably close to 18 inches long.
It was huge. It was
And
massive.
probably 2.5 to 3 inches thick.
Yeah.
Oh, it was. My mouth is watering just thinking about it right
I
now.
know, and their chips and salsa was so good. Even their fried, the Mexican rice was amazing.
I know. I know.
I'm hungry. Now I want to go there. That was good.
Me too. And I am proud to say that before my flight back, I did walk the 3 blocks to Taco Bell before I left. I did.
Well, like I said, I'm going to drive over there next year because I'll already be in Texas. So I'll just drive there rather than fly. So we'll have a car too. So, well, of course, last year I had Harriet's truck. So we had a car anyway, but I make it a little bit easier.
Good. Good. And
Yeah.
hopefully there's tornadoes next time.
Oh, yeah. We'd like it next year without the tornadoes.
That's right. That's right. What do you got for us on the Bigfoot front? What's the big news that's happening recently?
You know what? It's been a little bit quiet, which is surprising because this time of year they're pretty active, but the weather's cooling off. Like there's more sightings. Sightings are up. People are getting more photos. I've been getting bombarded with people that are sending me photos, believe it or not. There's a secret to getting the pictures. And once you figure out how to do it, you're amazed at what you get. Just take the random shots. Don't be looking for them. Just take random pictures. And if they're cloaked, they're so busy trying to cloak that they don't mess with the camera. And if you actually do see one to take a photo, never put them in the center of the frame. If you put them in the center of the frame, because they're such a high frequency, high energy beam, it distorts. That's why you get the blurry sensation in the camera. So always take them off center. Maybe take a picture of a tree near them or something so that they're off center, and that will get rid of a lot of the blur. And people right now are getting pictures of them right and left. They're actually, like they'll be out hiking in the woods and they're getting followed around. Nobody's getting threatened. Nobody's getting hurt. They seem to be really curious. And about once every 3 or 4 years, I've noticed they try to come forward and they actually try to make more contact than they normally do. And it's been about 3 or 4 years since they've really pushed it this much. And then we've got the energy shift of which they were part of, so that everybody's going into that higher frequency where our body's going from carbon-based to crystalline. And they love that. So they are really out and about. I mean, I was surprised when I was in Texas, I had one of the youngsters tried to walk in the camper I was staying in. Like they're just not as fearful of us as they used to be.
Well, in our spot here, we have had one sighting. I didn't see it, my UFO guy, Tim, actually saw it. And, it was kind of interesting to see, him who's never had an experience actually
Yeah.
have, which is nice. And, it was fleeting. The interesting part about it was like Tim heard, the typical thump thump, the heavy
Mhm.
2 footsteps, the thump thump, because it's always thump thump. And his wife put the flashlight up and he saw a humanoid kind of walk backwards on an angle. So we went back there the following week and we went and checked out the area. And we realized why the creature moved on an angle backwards. And that was because there was a fallen tree there that was on an angle. And it had to follow the fallen tree. Otherwise, it would have bumped into it. Which
That's
is kind of
awesome.
weird. Now, here's the other weird part about it. We didn't realize that our gifting site was only probably 30, 40 feet away, if that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, our gift site was right there.
So they were watching it. They, I've noticed that the people that, and I mean, I get people that call me every day, and they are trying to make more contact than they normally do. Like, I mean, this year they really seem to be more outgoing. I'm not hearing a lot of negative attacks, and we all know that they're not all good and they're not all bad, just like with our people. We've got good and bad. But it seems to be relatively, peaceful things. They're nosy. They're, like we're out there looking for them, and the whole time they're out there looking for us. But they seem to be more noticeable right now. The neighbors over here have seen them. Like tonight, I went to go let the dogs out for the night to go to the bathroom, and they came back in, but they were out howling back behind my property tonight. And surprisingly, when the dogs go out, we have a fenced-in yard. When the dogs go out, they'll come up close to the fence. Like they'll get in the tree line there, and every now and then I'll see like a hairy arm come over the fence. And went out back one time and let them out, and it was relatively dark out there. And there was one that was actually in the yard and did the belly crawl over to the fence and then jumped the fence and took off. But they've never hurt any of my animals. I mean, I know a lot of people have horror stories where they have, but you have to look at it this way. If your kids are outside playing and you have, a feral dog come running up, growling and snarling and trying to bite your kids or you're going to defend yourselves. The dogs that are under control, they seem to leave alone. Like I've actually, looked outside when I had my animal rescue. I had a couple dogs that I had to stay out in a kennel because they were quarantined, and they would be outside with them. Like they would actually get in the kennel with them, and they never hurt them. But none of my animals have ever tried to hurt them either. They don't bother my mini pigs. They don't bother the cats. I just have never, it didn't matter where I lived at. I have not had that problem. I know people that have. So I tend to wonder, perhaps what are the dogs doing to them? Did they chase them? Did they try to get them up in a tree? Did they try to bite them or whatever? Because I've been really fortunate. I mean, I'm sure there's some of them out there that are not good with the animals, but they don't bother mine. But they don't seem to care that they're seen lately either.
What do they care about?
As far as with interaction, I mean,
Yeah.
they're so safety oriented. I think if you want interaction, you let them make the moves. You don't do it. If you try to go in and control the situation, then you're done. They won't have anything to do with that. If you let them take the lead on it, it seems to go better. Instead of running around, find a central place and have a bonfire or whatever. There's nothing wrong with walking around through the woods and looking for the stick structures. To me, that's not chasing them down. But you see a lot of people that are out there specifically looking for them. And if they hear a noise, they're running off after them. Get a centralized spot, sit down, have a bonfire, cook some food over it, play some music, laugh, be happy. They come in for that frequency, and let them control the situation. That's the only way they feel safe. And it's so inbred in them to be fearful of us because we kill what we don't understand, that it just makes them feel insecure. It really and truly does. If you let them take control of the situation, let them come to you, the results are so much better. And what's even better is they're lasting results, because then you can go out and continue interaction and you're going to get it. 9 times out of 10, you'll get it. It may take you a little bit to get that first encounter, but if they're out and about and you're out there, you know, and you're doing all these things that they like, they'll come to you. They're just as curious as we are. You know, my next door neighbor, her son was outside working in the yard, and he went to go throw a bunch of brush into the tree line, and he didn't even know they were out there, you know, but they said, I don't know how long they were out there watching him, but he went to go dump a wheelbarrow for a brush on the tree line, and he heard what was like a growling sound, and he looked up, and there's one that he said had to be at least 9 foot tall, and just stood there. He was close enough to touch it, never tried to hurt him at all. He didn't know what to do. He just stood there, and then he backed up and then went into the house. But he said when he was I said to him afterwards, I said, did it take off and go down on all fours, or did it go run off on 2 legs? He said, that was a crazy thing. It was there. I saw it. I could have reached out and touched it. And then in a blink of an eye, it wasn't there. And he said, there was so much trees and brush, and I never saw a leaf move. I said, they never did. It just cloaked, because he never saw it leave. And after that, they've had all kinds of activity over there. You know, it's all about, for them feeling in their comfort zone. Once you get them spooked, you're done. And then they're on the defensive. You know, if you let them feel like they have control, I mean, do what you need to do to keep yourself safe. You know, you don't want to be where you're cut off and, you know, you can get them all around you, but let them have that control, because it makes them feel safer. And as long as they feel safe, you'll get your interaction.
Do you think with that interaction that they are, let me rephrase this. I know that they are in control in the situation. That's the best way to do it, to allow them to feel safe and to have that area of trust that they've built up. But how does that curiosity that they have affect the way they want to communicate with you?
Well, once they trust you, then you can try different things. Each group, each individual is going to work a little bit different. Like, I have some that are very comfortable with me going out, sitting on a log and just sitting there in the woods, and I'll talk to them and they'll move around me, and then certain ones will get closer. I have others that doesn't cut it. They don't want me that close with their area, so I'll sit farther away. You know, for years, I had 2 that if I went and I sat on my front porch, they would come in the tree line, which was only like 25 feet from my front door, and sometimes they would step out. But if I went into the woods, that scared them. I was too much into their area. But then there was several of them that were fine with it. It depends on the individual and what they will tolerate and what they won't. And as you work with them, as you kind of observe, instead of trying to actively do anything, observe them, and you'll get a feel of what they like, what they don't like, because these are a type of people. They are not our type, but they are a type of human. And like with us, every individual is different. You have, you know, Shadow would walk right up to me. He would walk like 10 feet away from me, you know, in full physical form, middle of the broad daylight, in the middle of my yard, no trees, no brush, no anything. And he was very comfortable doing that. But I had several others that they weren't coming out of that tree line. They would let me see him and they would peek around the tree or whatever, but they were not coming out of that tree line. So it comes down to the individual, but you have to just kind of go by each one. Observe them before you start really pushing an interaction. Observe, find out what that clan and what those individuals like.
Robin Haynes, we love it when you're on Spaced Out Radio. We shall talk to you next week.
You got it.
Coming up, it's the Dave 101 and the weird news of the week. Let's take this home right after this.
This is Spaced Out Radio and your host, Dave Scott.
All right, I'm clear. So, are we just going to stare at each other here for a minute? I'm just reading the chat room. Dave's disapprove stare. Good call, Oob. I'm just piecing together in my head my Dave 101. As for Matt, the problem with the NHL preseason is it goes way too long. They don't need 10 games. Starting the season in October is terrible. I've always hated that. NHL season should be going by September 15th. Rob G, I'm picking your Dallas Cowboys to go 10-7 this year, take a wild card seat, and get bounced to the first round of the NFL playoffs on wild card weekend. Called my shot. Kansas City's going to three-peat. I think they could go 13-4. I think the Raiders go 5-12. San Francisco will go 11-6. No, 12-5. Seattle will go 9-8. New York Jets will go 10-7. Jacksonville will go 8-9. Minnesota will go 5-12. Cincinnati will be 11-6. Cleveland will be 11-6. Houston will go 13-3. So I really like their young quarterback. Although he might have a sophomore jinx. If he has a sophomore jinx, they'll go 10-7. All right, here we go, everybody. In about 9 seconds. Spaced Out Radio tonight. We're going to get into the Dave 101 here momentarily. Hello, my name is Dave Scott. I'm the guy behind the microphone taking you on a weird journey each and every night right here on your lovely radio station. Hey, I want to remind all of you that if you missed most of this show or others, you can check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. It is that time of the night, that time of the week, where I yell at each and every one of you to get off my lawn. It's the Dave 101.
Open up the door, it's Dave! Who? Dave, D-A-V-E! What is this?
Dave's not here!
It's the Dave 101.
I can see you're really upset about this. I honestly think you ought to sit down calmly, take a stress pill, and think things over.
Leave the killer out! Yeah! Leave the killer! He's a mess.
All right, the NFL season is kicked off. Kansas City winning opening night over Baltimore. And you know what? I'm just going to get into this right off the bat here. I don't have an NFL team to cheer for. I like a lot of players. For instance, when Tom Brady was with the New England Patriots, winning all those Super Bowls, I liked the Patriots. I really like Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce. Never mind the Taylor Swift drama. All right. But I like the Chiefs. I really like a lot of these good young quarterbacks that are coming in. I like Joe Burrow. I do. I'm a Lamar Jackson fan in Baltimore. But I got to tell you, I don't have a specific team. And I think as I get more and more into the NFL, I'm going to develop who do I like? Who do I like? What's my favorite team? I don't know. I don't have one. You know, when Richard Sherman was backing the defense of the Seattle Seahawks back in the early 2010s when they won the Super Bowl, I liked the Seahawks. Now, a lot of people will say, hey, maybe you should cheer for the Seahawks. They're the closest team to you. Doesn't work for me. I don't go by region. I go by what I like. And I don't mind cheering for a losing team, whether it's Minnesota, formerly Detroit, before they had last season, which I love Detroit's coach, by the way. He's a motivator. You know, maybe it's Andy Reid's mustache that is just too powerful. I don't know what it is. But enough about football. Let's get into the UFO story. Because we are seeing a lot of drama building around Lou Elizondo and his book, Imminent. And I believe this is the calm before the storm. Something is happening here. What it is, I just can't make it out. Part of me wants to believe that Elizondo is being very upfront and honest with us, but there are a number of people out there, and not just his critics, who are coming out saying, that may not have happened the way the book says it happened. Have I changed my mind on Elizondo? No, I haven't. But I do have questions. I do wonder sometimes about some of the aspects of his book, especially about the fact that he never said publicly that he worked for Space Force, even though we knew it. He never said publicly that until the book that he worked with David Grush. We never knew that. David Grush kept that silent. Why have Elizondo's friends turned on him? Why is Jay Stratton, who he built up very big in Imminent, all of a sudden not being very kind to old Louie? What about Eric Davis? Eric Davis, who's a friend of Elizondo's as well, has come out and said, well, he might be exaggerating a little bit on the whole ATIP OSAP thing. There seems to be dissension in the ranks. Elizondo's book seems to have rattled and shaken some feathers behind the scenes. Maybe that's a good thing, yet maybe it's not. The weird part about it is who he didn't mention in the book. He didn't mention his right-hand man, his henchman, Sean Cahill. No mention whatsoever in the book. Yet he talks about the chief warrant officer on the USS Princeton, who was Cahill. There was one other, but I believe that Cahill was the one who had the encounter. He never mentioned Kevin Day from the Nimitz incident, yet he mentioned Alex Dietrich and David Fravor. Why is that? It's not that Sean Cahill or Kevin Day are private names that didn't want their names out in public, because they've been public for years on this subject. That doesn't make sense to me. But when we look overall with everything that's happening in the UFO world right now, it's ugly. It's not fun. All right? It's not fun at all. The fun seems to have been taken out of the UFO world right now, including this latest story where allegedly Elizondo told a celebrity bodyguard about a race of sea people in long cars on the moon while attempting to hire him. Apparently, Elizondo felt there may be stress leading to his book imminent and what may come out of it, and tried to hire this bodyguard, told him a few stories, showed him some pictures, saying, what does this look like to you? Elizondo has since responded, I don't even know who this guy is. This didn't happen like this. And to quote Elizondo, never spoke to the dude, but got to give props to a clever imagination. I actually thought this was a joke until some folks said people were taking this seriously. For the record, this never happened, but it's funny. We're so wound up about UFOs. Can't laugh, can't make fun of them. Everybody's trying to dox everyone's other information. And it's made for a very, very uncomfortable scene in the UFO world. Well, who is telling the truth once again? We don't know. Is Elizondo trying to cover things up? Or is he just tired of playing the game? One thing he said during his interview with Kurt J. Mungle is he really, and I'm paraphrasing here, really felt that his family and a lot of people around him were going to be in danger. So the question is, what's the danger? Who's after him? How is this affecting his family? That would seem to be Elizondo's biggest concern with everything. How did that happen? Well, we don't know. We don't know. We don't know if anybody's really after him. A lot of people could say that. We really don't know if I were him. I just thought about this. That's why I quick change the subject here. If I were him, I'd probably have a bodyguard for the people who are involved in UFO X-Land, where they're driving on a vehicle with 3 flat tires, going nut bar over everything that he said, didn't say, could have said, never said, wanted to say, but thought it. It's just getting ridiculous. You know what? It's not fun. It's not fun talking about a lot of this, even though it is our job to bring that information to the public. And imminent, we're going to be discussing this book probably for another few weeks, as long as it's a bestseller, as long as more information comes out, then we got to see what is going on. But who is telling the truth? And what is the truth? We always have to remember something about truth. There's your side of the story. There's my side of the story. Then there's the truth down the middle. 3 sides to every story. We've heard Elizondo's. But what are other people going to be saying? Especially Jade Stratton, who in the next few months will have a book come out. This is the man who actually ran the OSAP program at the Pentagon, which turned into ATIP, which went back to OSAP, which went to UAPTF, and then some AIMSOG. Whoever thought of that acronym should have been fired on the spot and had their blazer jacket burned to a crisp. Then after ASOG, we had other groups, which eventually culminated in ARROW, All Domain, whatever the hell it stands for. Does anybody know? Nobody. Nobody knows. I don't even think they know anymore. But it's going to be interesting to see how everything plays out. And the other interesting thing we have to watch here very soon is if they do decide after summer here to hold more hearings before the federal or the national election in the United States, the presidential election, will they call Elizondo to the stand? Will they do it? Won't they do it? That is the big question. But there's a lot of questions that need to be answered very, very quickly. Elizondo may have some of those answers. But have you noticed something? Because I like noticing patterns. We've talked a lot about two people over on this show over the last couple of years, one being Lou Elizondo, another being David Grush. You notice when Elizondo was speaking after he left the To the Stars Academy, Grush was nowhere to be seen, nowhere to be heard, nowhere to be read. And then Elizondo goes on hiatus. All of a sudden, there comes David Grush. Talking NHIs, non-biologics, UFOs, crash retrievals. We got them. They're hiding. They're hiding in the back of Bill's pork and oil, lube, and filter shop somewhere near Lubbock, Texas. I don't know where they are. And then Grush goes silent for a few weeks, months. And lo and behold, Elizondo's back in the fold once again. Is this active intelligence going on? Are they not allowed to be seen in public at the same time? I find it interesting. I hope you do too. There's a lot of interesting things going on right now. You know, the UFO world isn't pretty. It might get uglier. And we just wait and see what new stories, what new cases are going to come out. And I wrap up this Dave 101 tonight where I'm going to give a couple minutes to our late friend, our former weekend host on Spaced Out Radio, Michael W. Hall. He passed away from complications with kidney failure early, just a few weeks ago. We all just found out the news earlier today. Michael was a good man. I got to introduce him to some very good people, including Grant Cameron, where him and Grant Cameron worked on getting the release of the Wilson Davis documents into public. The Wilson Davis documents are the same ones that have been entered as evidence to the U.S. Congress. And most recently, Eric Davis finally confirmed that he wrote the notes. And then blamed Grant Cameron for trying to make a buck off of them. Well, Michael W. Hall was a good man. He was a lawyer and a former judge in Washington State. He has always loved UFOs and really wanted to push hard for the disclosure movement. He always was wearing his brown fedora. Didn't matter whether he was in camera, at a conference, or just every day for breakfast. It had a fish hook in it. And I always said every time I saw Michael, "Can I try on your hat?" And he always let me try on his hat. I will never forget that. I will never forget him being a great host for us here on Spaced Out Radio until he was getting too tired and just couldn't do it anymore. His health was starting to take over. He was on kidney dialysis for a while. And what kept him going was the book that he wrote about finding out about the Wilson Davis documents. and the fact that he loved ufology. We will miss Michael W. Hall, the paranormal lawyer. And not to sound conceited, I am the one who came up with the paranormal lawyer. Nobody else did, because I nickname everybody. If you're close to me, you get a nickname. Nothing insulting, just something fun. And I'm going to miss the paranormal lawyer. Glad to have had him part of the Spaced Out Radio team, and hopefully he finds his answers now.
As God is my witness, I thought turkeys could fly.
Ladies and gentlemen, here is the latest bulletin from the Intercontinental Radio News.
Loud noises!
I am good at things, fighting and reading the news.
It's time once again for Spaced Out Radio's Weird News of the Week.
All right, we're going to start off with a kind of a grotesque story from a Delta flight from Boston to Rome. You know, it's crappy enough that you have to be in that air, that gross smelling and tasting air of an airplane for that long of a flight, especially when it's transatlantic. Never been on one of those because I've never been to Europe, but this couldn't have been comfortable. A Delta flight from Boston to Rome, Italy last week was forced to turn around about an hour after takeoff. It had to be diverted to JFK Airport, New York, due to a customer medical issue en route, says airline spokespeople for the airline. Yep. Here's what happened. A passenger had extremely severe bouts of diarrhea all over their seat. They didn't even make it to the bathroom that nobody can fit in. I've literally seen, tiny little pixie-like women try and fit into those bathrooms, and they could barely do it. Imagine what a fat butt like me could do in there. Anyways, the Delta Airbus A330 landed at JFK. The 281 passengers weren't even given oxygen when they should have. They were transferred to another plane so they could get their flight going. The poopy plane, by the way, resumed service 20 hours after the accident, presumably and hopefully after a thorough cleaning. Delta has since addressed the incident aboard the plane, apologizing to their customers for the delay in their travels, but nobody wanted to sit in a tube full of blank for that long 6 to 8 hour flight. And I don't blame them. I couldn't imagine. Now, I have been in a plane where people have literally ripped one, and it's bad. Oh, it's bad. But I was able to man up and take it. I don't know if I could do this one. It's a biohazard issue, the pilot said to air traffic control. We've had a passenger who has had diarrhea all the way through the plane. They want us to come back to Atlanta. Yeah, poor guy, poor girl. Either way, poor passenger for doing that. Feel bad for him. When you can't have a Florida man story, let's bring it to Vegas because that's like second best. Las Vegas hotel guest is suing after a scorpion allegedly found its way into his bed and stung him on the testicles. Yes, Michael Farchi of Agora Hills, California, said he was staying at the Venetian Resort at the end of last year when the arachnid crawled into his bed and stung his cojones. The man has since filed a lawsuit claiming he was left with you got to be kidding me. You got post-traumatic stress disorder, emotional trauma, and non-existent sex life. Try Viagra at your age of 62. It works. Or Cialis. Works for me. I can also indicate, as you saw in the complaint, we are also making a claim of loss of consortium for Mr. Farchi's wife, said the lawyer Brian Varag. alluding to the lack of intimacy because he can't get it up with a forklift at this point due to that scorpion. Farchi is seeking a jury trial to decide whether the hotel should compensate him for the damages, pain, suffering, mental distress, loss of employment, of life, or enjoyment of life, among other things, according to the report. The Venetian has responded. The resort has protocols for this incident, and we can confirm they were followed in this incident. Farchi allegedly awoke to excruciating pain in the groin while staying at the hotel December 26, 2023. I just felt like somebody stabbing me in my private area. It was like a sharp glass or a knife. When he went to check it out, he discovered an orange scorpion hanging onto his underwear. Probably had to get the hell out of there because the guy ripped one. I don't know. Either way, I always amazed by these people. It's September. This happened 9 months ago. Why did you not file then? I don't get it. Either way, you're in the desert. There's scorpions there. There's scorpions. I'll be losing this. As we say hello, Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal, rocking in the background with Little Brother is watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at work, at home, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, LGAB, Facebook, Spreaker, LinkedIn, the Space Travelers Club, and on X, hashtag Spaced Out Radio. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends,
we're watching.
We own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo Train has docked for the night, but soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Our seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night, everybody. Good show. Good show, everybody. Yay. Good show. Watch out for the scorpions biting your nuts. Gents. I think there needs to be a timeline on people who sue. You shouldn't wait 9 months before you're offended your testes got tanked by a scorpion. I did cut the hair. My hair just got cut. Seriously, though. It's freaking ridiculous. It really is. Dude is going to want to probably have probably suing for like $30 million. Have you gone to the doctor to see what's wrong? Maybe you have a prostate problem. Right? Maybe that's the case. It's not the hotel's problem. You can't get it up with a forklift. Have you tried the blue pills or the yellow pills, depending on which company you use? I want to know this stuff. I do. I'm interested. I think we should all be interested. What's worse? Shitting your pants on an airplane or getting stung in the testes by a scorpion that kills your libido? You're 62. Most 62-year-olds are happy to get it twice a year. And I'm not talking sex. I'm talking get it up. I'm not wrong. I'm not wrong at all. Nope, not wrong at all. All right, I got to know what's the difference between Viagra and Cialis. Oh, Viagra apparently remains effective 4 to 6 hours. Cialis lasts up to 36 hours. By God. That's the start of the show right there. Cut that.
That with people
We're doing.
So a couple things. So there were a couple things. Number one, I'm going.
Nice. Very.
We can talk a bit about that as well.
Lovely. Absolutely.
Oh, thank you.
So,
and you're enjoy.
All right. There. Find out why my levels are so low. All right. Why are my levels? Shop right on the corner there. And I'm standing there and I'm just pissed off. Like I've been on hold for about 20 minutes at this point. So weird. That might be why. Didn't have my microphone cranked tonight. Good job, Dave. Oh. I think we're going to start a GoFundMe so that way we can all send Rob G to a hockey game this year.
I mean, it's such a beautiful paradox, you know. Well, and we have ways to, but
Club. Joe Diamond is here, but just hit that subscribe button. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. Come on. Oh my goodness. Seriously. Copy, paste. Don't forget to shop at our Spaced Out. Don't forget to shop at our Spaced Out. Don't forget to shop. I got a question for all of you. Because I'm struggling a little bit right now with the decision that I have to make with SOR. And that is whether or not we are going to do the fan party next year. I realize the economy has been tough. Stargazer, your hockey team originally went to Calgary from Atlanta back in the early 80s, and then your next hockey team went to Winnipeg. Anyways, I have a decision to make on whether or not we're going to do the fan party in next year. I really want to. I really do. But I can't do it without you guys there. What is going on here? Yes. I can't do it without you guys there. Because after all, we do the party for you. I would like to do it in my neck of the woods, but we don't, it's too difficult to get up here. So the first year we did the fan party, we had probably 50 listeners there. The second year we did the fan party in Vegas, we probably had about 30 listeners there. And when we did the party last year, we had about 8 listeners in Reno, maybe 10, 12. It's not enough to do that. Then we had people signed up, and after they had signed up and we were sending them information on, okay, we need you to pay for your tickets, they never responded and never showed up. So I don't mind putting out the money for the party because I love doing it, but I don't want to go through the hassle if we're not going to have more than 10 people there. And I'm not going to call a bunch of favors for people to come join us if we're not going to get the fan support. Now, I realize we had a couple of things that were wrong. We booked the thing for Mother's Day weekend. I get that. That's our fault. The year before, in Vegas, prices got jacked up on hotel rooms because they brought back that EDM concert that brings like 500,000 people into Vegas. So, yeah, partially it has been our fault. So, my question to all of you, I don't want maybes. I want yes or no's. If we do a fan party next year in Vegas, is this something you want to attend? And is this something that we should do? So I need 2 yeses, 2 nos, 1 yes, 1 no. Whatever. I'm curious. I realize that the economy is crap, people. I'm being totally affected by the economy just as much as you guys are. And probably even worse with our prime minister, pardon me, dear leader. I get that. Well, the one thing, Paramarv, the reason why we're going back to Vegas is because on the advice from 2 of our radio stations, Vegas is right in between our three major stations in Utah, in Arizona, and in California. So it just makes sense to go to Las Vegas. That way, it's right there for everybody. So I know you do, Human Carl. But we're not doing it. I'm not going to do it in Vegas. I'm going to do it away from the strips. Okay? I'm going to do it away. And if people want to go down to the strip, we could do that. But we're going to make a few more events going on. Where it's going to be a lot more. It's going to be a lot more organized. Just looking. Comments here. All right. So right now I'm seeing, just going through chat room, one person. And that's Tim. One person, and it's Tim. Stargazer, I'm hoping that too. I am hoping that too. That they will drop their prices. Everywhere is expensive right now. Try coming to Canada. or you're paying $9-10 a gallon for fuel. The other day on the long weekend, because I haven't talked to you guys in a while, my daughter was up. We had a steak dinner. My daughter wanted me to barbecue steaks. So I did. I went to the store, bought 7 steaks and a 24-pack of Pepsi. And I'm not even talking the good steaks, people. Not even talking the good steaks. But for 7 steaks and a 24-pack of Pepsi, my bill was $90. 90. Screw you, Major League. Missed the last 20 minutes on my motorbike to work. Has Captain Dave stopped blubbering? Oh. It's ridiculous. Rob, how many people are in that poll? $19 so far. So 68% of 19. It's 9, 10, 11 people. All right, everybody. Tomorrow night on the show, our Keith Andrews is here. I took him out for dinner the other night. I'm going to get going because I have a headache. Love you guys. Thank you. Deb times 2, Area 53, Major Lee, and T-Bone. And I'll see you tomorrow night for our Keith, everybody. Gute Tag.
Stay healthy, my friend.
You too.
If you need bail money, give me a call.
Always, Dad. Take care.
You too.